Hey, everyone. Hi, Dave.
Hello.
Hey, Rob. Just give it a minute. Chris is logging. Pat's going to be late. He's had a full day at the station. Let me just send a quick message. Oh, there he is. All right, let's get him in and then we'll get started. Light is going to drive me crazy behind me. Hey, Chris.
Hello, how are you?
Good, how are you? All
Good,
right.
thank you.
So let's get this rolling. This is the May 18th meeting of the Park Commission. In accordance with the requirements of the open meeting law, please be advised that this meeting is being recorded and will be broadcast over the Lunenburg Public Access Channel. This meeting is being conducted remotely and will be found eventually on the Lunenburg Access YouTube channel, usually within 24 hours, but sometimes it takes a little bit longer. If for some reason we are live anywhere, the meeting ID for this meeting is 792-737-0353. All right, in attendance this evening, Dave Passios.
I am here.
Anna.
I'm here too.
Chris.
Here.
And Rob, you can hear us as well? Okay, great. Chris, I had told the other two, Pat's tied up at the station. He's hoping to jump on in a little while.
Cool, thanks.
So, all right, let's get this going. To start off with, do we have any public or board comments? I don't think I'm seeing any. All righty. All right, next is approval of minutes. I didn't get the February ones done. I thought I was halfway through and I couldn't find the file, so I had to start from scratch. But we do have two other sets of minutes. They are two sets of minutes from March, I believe the 8th and March 29th. Did anybody have a chance to look through them? Do they have any amendments?
No amendments.
Are we okay
Looks good.
to, can we get a
Motion
motion?
to
Hold
approve.
on just a second.
Yep.
Trying to find my note. I wrote one somewhere.
Okay,
Are we including March 16th?
which minutes did I have up? Oh, you know what, you're right. It's March, it must be March 16th and the 29th.
Okay.
Let me get them up again. Do you have an amendment?
Yeah, I've got one note on the March 16th, and I can't tell you exactly where, but I know it was one of the bulleted lines. And it was Catherine talking about the plan as they were presenting it there. There was a comment made about, I think it says reconfiguration of all three fields.
Let me pull it up, Dave. Give me one
But I
second.
think,
It says
okay.
reorient to the 90-foot baseball diamond and the softball field.
that's not the line that I pulled it from.
Oh, down below, further down. Yeah, reorientation of all ball fields, shared outfield has been removed.
Okay, so that was just a statement that they had removed that from the previous. I skimmed through it very quickly, and I took that sentence out of context. So if that was a comment about what they changed from the previous one, then we're okay. I was just concerned that it talked about reorientation of all three fields, and I honestly don't remember that we had Powell Field reoriented in any of the plans, but that's fine.
Okay. So the only thing that I don't know why I'm just catching this now. I'm just want to verify it. I do want to go back on the minutes from March 16th and correct the spelling of Catherine's last name. It's actually Ostermier. So if I could get a motion to approve the minutes from March 16th and March 29th with the amendment of correcting the spelling of Catherine's last name on March 16th, that'd be great.
So are we not doing the 8th because the 18th is in the folder as well? Oh no, that's right. That's an agenda. Never mind.
Yeah, no,
I
I
saw
was
it as March. Forget.
One of those days.
Yeah, no, the March 8th, it was on my mind because I sent it over to Town Hall, the approved minutes, and there was a spelling error that she didn't want to post because it wasn't really an appropriate spelling error. It came up as a not nice word. So I did correct that. And so that I've just been going back and forth because of course I screwed it up again and sent her the wrong one. So that's why March 8th was on my mind. So it's just March 16th and March 29th.
Motion to approve with the stated change in spelling.
Thank you.
Second.
Second,
Okay, I'll grab Dave. Thank you.
Stare at the screen. We'll wake up.
I know. Is there any other comments before we roll call vote this? Okay, great. Dave,
Aye.
Anna,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
and it's an aye from myself. Awesome. Hopefully I remember to send those over tomorrow. She's always harassing me because I never do it on time. All right, so DPW Town Manager, Rec Director updates with discussion. So Rob is on this evening, starting with any general updates, Rob.
Hello, everybody. We have the, well, today we, I guess, saved the baseball from suffering an embarrassment on the grass. It grows a lot quicker than anybody anticipates. And once a week is not good enough. And I think we determined that today. So we were able to cut it before a game.
I'm sorry.
Uh,
I'm not sure. What did you say? We saved baseball from?
Oh, the grass was too high for
Oh,
for their liking. Their preference was to have it. I'm not too sure the size, but it was too long for them. The untrained eye would have said it was cut, but for playing it was not. So we were able to get that done before they had their game today. So
which team?
it was the high school.
Oh,
And,
awesome.
yeah, so it was.
They had reached out yesterday with a concern on the grass. That's usually handled by the DPW. So I had forwarded it on this morning. So there was some back and forth with them. So that was
Okay.
able to get taken care of. Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah,
nothing
that was
of it.
yeah, it was a bit of a juggle to get that all squared away for them. More than one person brought it to my attention.
Oh, good. Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, MA Sports will be coming to provide multi sports through June, through the
I'm sorry,
later weeks of
what?
June.
Who's coming?
MA Sports.
Okay, and they're coming to.
They're going to provide a multi-sport type of event. You know, like exactly what the layout is. It's to be determined, but it'll be like obstacle course type things, as well as like basketball, soccer, whatever inclusive. He has a layout of what he's doing throughout the week, and I believe.
So is that going to be a summer camp?
I can't classify it as a camp, but it will be a summer program. Yes.
Summer program. Okay.
Correct.
Oh, nice. So
Yeah.
it will be a summer. What is the age group?
Say again.
The age group that they are offering this
Oh,
program for?
The age group, it will be from, I believe, from 7 to 13. He'll be able to encompass that age group. He'll have 2 different times, I guess, for the younger group and the older group. I don't think it's based off age. I think it's based more off grade. So.
And
That's,
Rob, once you finalize that, you'll get it up onto the website and
will,
put it out on our Facebook page. Can you also see if you can figure out how to do it will send an email, MyRec will send an email to everybody. Can you see if you can figure that out once you get that programming on? Because that's an easy way to blast anybody that's already registered for the MyRec site.
I will
And again,
work on
Rob, I have extensive experience with websites and how things work. If you need help, like, there's no need to spend 20 hours in a week trying to figure some of these things out. Like, I'm happy to volunteer my time. Like,
certainly.
2 years ago, or 2.5 years ago, this department was fully run with volunteers. right? And we, when I came in, when I joined the board about a little over a year ago, I said, as we grow, it'll be important to figure out a way that we can use the paid employees and resources that we have, but that we don't lose some of the volunteer energy that we used to have, because I think we're going to go through a transition period. So between we can be fully staffed to do all the work that we need to get done, and between us actually being able to afford that. So if you need help, please, you have limited hours, and I think it'll be important for you to maybe focus your hours on things that I can't volunteer or someone else can't volunteer. I'm happy to help with the website. It's outside the town's network. I think that would be an easy thing into it if I can help you.
I agree. Thank you. I appreciate that. We'll certainly find ways to incorporate that.
We can get
Best
it on
soccer?
the Facebook pages and stuff too. So when you have it ready, we can cast it out to various Lunenburg, like the other Facebook pages beyond the Lunenburg Rec page on Facebook.
Excellent.
I know there's been some
Yes.
chatter on those pages asking about camps and things like that. So be good
No,
to get that.
absolutely. There's, I know
Happy to do
everybody's
that.
looking.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate that, and certainly appreciate the help. So Best Soccer, it will be returning to us. We're still trying to finalize, work a schedule in with them. They weren't able to, I guess, get back to me immediately throughout the past few months, but they finally, I talked to Paul, and what a great guy that is. They've been around for a long time, so I'm very pleased to even get them to acknowledge that we need them back here, and a lot of parents would agree. So Best Soccer will be returning.
So
You know,
what's the plan with them?
do you know when you expect to hear back from Paul?
He should be calling me back within this week. Him and his, I believe, wife. They were trying to figure out the days of the week that they have available for me, and then I've already reached out to Heather, in the facilities director, to kind of get an idea of the field availabilities, because he would prefer a turf soccer field as opposed to just an open field, but that's to be determined.
You might want to verify that he does in fact want to be on a turf field versus the grass field, because a lot of times the turf is extremely hot. And I feel like I've had that discussion with him prior. So just verify that when you call him. I know he doesn't want to be at the primary school. That field's, it's just not in great condition. So, even if it's one of the front fields at the high school or the side field, whatever they call that now, that may be acceptable to him too. I don't remember the last time he was here where he ran his camp, because we had 2 years in a row that was canceled. So I think I mentioned this to you last week, but when he gives us the dates, or he gives you the dates of, it's usually a week-long period that he comes, because the camps are usually run for a week. It would be great if we could get it in writing from the superintendent. And so he has a guarantee that he's going to have field to use at no additional cost, like no hour.
Absolutely.
Those fields.
Absolutely. He articulated that to me as well. He I think that was a great concern. He doesn't want to pass off anything to the parents. He wants to obviously have a value program that is.
Yeah. If there was a fee, if he had to add on a high fee for rental of the field, he would price himself out of being able to run a program.
Yes, exactly. And that's the conversation we had is it will be a free program. So hopefully we'll be able to work out all that, and I will get it in writing.
Okay.
From the superintendent.
Yeah. Did you see, when I was working on the February minutes, I had caught the comment again that Jared had raised about the cardboard boat race. Did you see my email on that?
I did. And
Okay.
I put that on for the agenda. I would like to have the cardboard. It seems to be a historic race now, so I would like to have that back. I will find out all the finer details. I've been talking directly with the Board of Health on many issues, and I'm, realizing that there's a lot more to having these camps and anything close to the water or within nature. You might hear my daughter in the background here. She's singing.
Okay.
My apologies. Yeah, cardboard boat race, as well as creative craft shops, bracelet building, necklace building, painting. Those age groups will be determined. I can't keep everything children. I think that's we'll be able to offer them to the age groups of like we can have creative painting shops for children, older kids, as well as teens. And I would like to do cooking classes for like 18 plus and whatnot. We can certainly get professional chefs to come and with established mobile kitchens. I'm still not sure of all the regulations on this all stuff, so I would like to be able to have it. I'm still trying to determine where we can have these things. Social events like a day. I don't know if we still do dances. I don't. My grandparents actually met each other in Lunenburg at a social. I don't know if those things happen anymore. If late teens and if people want to get together and dance, that's we could theme it out. We could not theme it out. It's I'm just spitballing ideas, and I will put them out there. If I get a response, if not, we just move on with that.
Okay.
The swim. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. Nope. Go ahead.
No, I think I'm going into the
beach. Okay.
beach. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Hold that stuff.
So so we're still talking summer. There has been adult summer soccer pickup games and other pickup games like basketball. I think that's a winter thing, but I know the adult soccer is one that has
We
happened.
did it in the fall, didn't we, Chris? Adult soccer.
It was fall. There might be some early.
There used to be one in the
kind of
summer.
We did
pick up,
softball
like
in the
early
summer.
morning pickup kind of. There was a softball one. Yeah,
Okay,
soccer.
many years
as a
ago there
program
was a
in the
summer.
fall.
But that one, I know you're talking, Rob, about just starting something like this wouldn't be, the starting or in organizing, just getting the logistics would be most of the work.
Yeah.
But having a one night a week that is a reserved field that you can approach the school for it and fight for it. And you'd say, hey, I want to Wednesday nights put a soccer league here, an adult soccer league, and we can say it's anyone 16 and older.
I'll say something about the fields right now. Those fields, like the school fields, are going to need a break this summer. I can't believe they're letting kids play on them now. The lacrosse is on the front field on Mass Ave is actually in pretty good shape, but the fields at Lysa are on. They need a break. I mean, that's just. I mean, they're not getting treated. They're not getting maintained the way they should be maintained. And it's not our issue. It's a school issue, but they're not maintained. They're dirt right now. They're dirt. The entire middle of the field against the bleachers is dirt. If you
I noticed.
up and go take a look at it, like there's, I was shocked that they allowed kids to play soccer on them. Quite honestly,
Right, but
I would
I mean,
caution as we get ahead and start looking at fall sports and maybe adult fall soccer when I think it's more popular in the fall because people are here on vacation. People aren't away for the summer on vacation and so forth.
Yeah.
I would maybe look at this. The softball league I think was pretty popular.
It was 1 year. It was extremely popular, and then the next year, I don't think it had as much traction.
That would be
wasn't
something that I think, and it's mainly volunteer driven, Rob. I mean, you get a few guys that will kind of just take it on and they'll collect forms for you and all that kind of jazz and you're good.
And maybe the town all needs to provide is some, basic equipment, but most of the time people have their own equipment.
Yeah, I think in the past, everyone showed up with, last time I
Right.
played, everyone just showed up with their own. If you had a bat, you brought a bat or,
Right.
gloves.
So would they have a co-ed adult
It
league
was
or no?
co-ed. Yeah, it was
Yeah,
a co-ed
it was
adult
co-ed.
league. And quite honest, the teams were broken up when people got there, basically.
Yep.
Everyone just kind of arrived and they just split and, play, because everyone pretty much knows each other for the most part.
Well, I like the sound of that, and
Yeah, and that's another one that, like, I mean, the soccer, like we have fields, so that is one that we can do, explore. But the softball, again, like, just getting something started.
Yep.
And going and just making available and saving the
Nope.
the field for, so that's the one night a week during the summer that nobody can use that field. That, like,
Rob, can I
it's-
ask another favor on programming? Well, yeah, so can we see if we can find somebody that can do an introductory to pickleball? And we should be able to use the courts over at, we can either, I think we could even use Wallace Court. I think if we had some portable nets, that's how I've seen it done in the past, but we were down at a pickleball court a few weeks ago, and there was a ton of people there. So I know that they're doing it now with some of the seniors, that there's like I don't want to call it a senior league, but I think the senior center must put together something, because they use the gym over at TC Passios.
it is a growing sport. I've seen many age groups. We've where I worked previously, we've done that, and it's it's very easy to do in any particular flat area. I will consider that for sure.
Okay, thank you.
How about like cornhole? Is anybody interested in that? Because other towns seem to have leagues, but I don't know.
well,
Yeah, so I think that I do. Sorry, Anna, I don't mean to cut you off. I
Oh,
think
you
that-
are cutting me off.
I am cutting you off. My brain's like fried. I think that there might be an interest in doing something. I do know that the junior class at the high school ran a cornhole tournament last weekend, and I don't think it was overly well attended. I could be wrong. So I don't know.
No, you might be right.
But that said, here's the other thing I can tell you, and this, you could reach out to them and ask. The senior center has a bocce ball court. That might be something that might grab some traction. When the senior center's closed, it's in their backyard, so it's still, you don't have to go through the building to get to it. That might be an interesting.
I think the Boys and Girls Club is doing a cornhole tournament in June as well. Although I offered to help with that, and we haven't really gotten underway. So
So,
not sure if it's happening
Rob,
behind the scenes or not. But Hollis Hill has a bunch of boards and stuff, so it'd be easy. That's a spot to look at if it was something you want to do, Rob. It's there's like Hollis, you could tie it in with Hollis Hill, and I think Game On in Fitchburg, the new sports complex in Fitchburg, they were running a cornhole tournament. I don't know. I haven't seen it hosted lately, but they were advertising it for a while. They just added their axe throwing stuff in there too, and stuff like that. So there's some stuff around to,
So,
kind of.
Rob, if Karen doesn't interrupt me again, there's a lot of
Karen, mute
ideas
yourself.
that we have in these meetings, and we throw them at you. Like, I hope that, like, you came and you had, it's great that you brought the multi-sport event and talking about doing the best soccer program. Like, it would be great if you could come to our meetings once a month with things that you would like to do, of all these ideas that we give you, and say, I would like to do X, Y, and Z, and come with a list of what you need help with. Because I think I feel like,
do I seem a little apprehensive?
no, I just, I feel like my observation is that we have a lot of ideas. You have 5 people that are very enthusiastic about the commission, they participate. But if you come to our meetings with some of those ideas and some of the more or less plans in place, and listing what you need help with, you probably have, I would say, at least 3 out of the 5,
Okay.
just by numbers, that you can tap on as a resource for you. so that we can get some of these things moving and going, because ideas are easy to have, but getting a few of those things started and come to us with some of those things that you have started and let us,
Well,
we'll support
I'm
you.
glad, no, I'm glad you mentioned that, because it's much easier to start an adult program or anything 18 plus than it is to start with a, the I want to say child programs or younger programs, youth programs. It's much more difficult to do all the Corey checks and make sure they have all their licensing, and that's more cumbersome than anything that. But I do agree. I will come with more of a instead of having a broad stroke, be like, I am looking for
Right.
participants in this, and I will have that for you for sure.
Thank you. Dave has his hand up. I don't know why he put
Yes,
his
Dave.
hand up and didn't just interrupt. Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, well, it's kind of hard to interrupt with so many words per second coming out.
I know.
And English is my second language.
Please don't interrupt so I can get this done. I want us to go back and think about what we talked about over the last 3 to 6 months. And I'd like to ask what happened to easing into programming.
Yes.
The last 10 minutes has been a discussion of programming that would take 2 full-time people to coordinate, manage, and make sure they go off properly. We dive into this too deep again, and we're going to have a total failure again for this summer. We talked about simple things like movies in the park and those types of things. And now you're sitting here talking about all these leagues and all these programs that, it's all well and good. The adult programs usually create themselves. A couple of adults come forward and contact either parks or the rec department or DPW and say, hey, we'd like to do this, and we support them. That's fine. But we're not in a position to start creating leagues and all of this scheduling and this kind of stuff. We need to get through the beach season and do a few programs to get the public to feel that they can trust what we're doing, not throw out a whole bunch of stuff and have a lot of it flop. That's my comment.
Thank you. I am gonna respond to that, but I just want to throw something out. Anthony Caiozo is gonna jump on around 7:30 for the skate park. He only has a couple of minutes because it's a crazy week for him. So we may have to freeze on this topic and go back to it after. I just wanted to give everybody that heads up.
All right. Dave made a great point. We have to base a lot of this in reality, and there's a lot of time consumption that is wrapped up in the formalities. But
and I would agree with you, Rob. But here's my comment on this. We have run successful programs in the past without a rec director. Some of these programs are those programs. Best Soccer, literally all it has to be done is put on a schedule. There's a little background work because for 2 years in a row, I believe it was 2 years in a row, it was canceled. That was 100% the doing of the town. It was on our side. So, I want to make sure that if they're coming back in, but once they're in and it's on the agenda, there's very little background work that has to get done on that. They come, this is what they do. They run camps. MA Sports, they run camps. That's what they do. So I understand what you're saying, Dave, in doing all of this stuff if we were doing it independently, but we're not doing it independently. It's putting it on a schedule and making sure that it's known so that we have the field space available. Other than that, I don't see a huge time commitment. Yes, I do think if we were to create some sort of league, it might be a little bit more, but how do you build trust back up in a community if we're not running any programs?
No, I'm not saying we shouldn't run the Best Soccer or the MA Sports. I'm fully on board with those. Those are outside entities that are going to come in and do 80% or 90% of the work. That's fine. But the rest of this discussion is about creating leagues and bocce events and all this other stuff. That's new creations. You're talking about going in too many directions at one time.
I think these leagues have been created though, Dave. Like I've never seen, I played the softball league. I've played the soccer leagues multiple times. I've never
Remember,
once
Chris,
seen
adults
the-
came forward and made that happen with our
So the
support.
softball,
That's my
I think,
point.
if I recall, the softball thing came forward because it was a guy on the Parks Commission at the time that
That's
took
correct.
it on, and then other volunteers kind of the next year, other volunteers took it over. And that's exactly what I was talking when I talk about these leagues. And I think a lot of this is just kind of chatter and just kind of tossing things out and giving Rob ideas as he's getting his feet wet. I wholeheartedly understand and agree with what you're saying. Like, let's not put the issue we had, I think, in the past was there were pages and pages and pages. I mean, it was a 25-page brochure of summer programs that all basically didn't get off the ground,
Right.
including movie nights and ice cream socials and all those sorts of deals that never got to fruition. So, I mean, I think it's going to be important to get a few things off the ground and to fruition. And I think to an extent, Rob can be a catalyst to get some of that off the ground. And it can be as simple as Rob or one of us putting something out on a Facebook post to say, hey, is there interest in a summer softball league? And gauge that and see. And then we can go, Rob, there's interest. There's 20 people that just responded saying they'd play. And then, he puts a
did
night
with the-
aside at Marshall on the softball field, and we're good.
That's what we
I
did
don't.
with soccer, right, Chris? Because it
Soccer,
went up-
yeah, soccer has been an ongoing list for years, and soccer is one that I was always under the impression that it was a park program, but it wasn't. It falls under that director of community schools, and so I like, as far as adult soccer goes, I would go back to the school first.
Well, I
So I
think
think that
then
was-
we took it over because I remember
We sort of did. We
we had
so
all-
we
we
did
had-
last fall. Last fall we
Okay.
did, but that was a question that they had, was did they want to relinquish that or not? And I just kind of made it, last fall I'm not looking to steal it and take it away from the school if that's what this person's job is supposed to be. But it was October and it hadn't gotten off the ground. So, and there was a lot of interest in getting that going. So that's why I think why we did it at that point. But when it was run by another volunteer the prior season, when I talked with him, and I talked to the guy that does the basketball league, they fall under the school. And it came through the director of community schools office or whatnot, is
Because I
how it
know-
had typically.
Hold on, and I just want to add something to, I agree 100% with everything Chris said and Karen. The other thing is, we're trying to get something going, like giving ideas to Rob as a resource. I don't think there's any issue with that. And, I would hate for us to be in a meeting that we can't share ideas with our rec director. And, and we're trying to get something going. We have not had any program happening at all. Like, if I go to the Facebook page. So I don't think coming here and giving ideas to the rec director and offering our help is something that we should stop doing and offer, like, I'm literally offering my time and my help and my resources and specialties that I have. I don't think that's something we should stop, and we want to get something going. And right now we got nothing. So whatever we can do, whenever Rob shows up, if there's not much happening, you're going to get a group of passionate people about a subject that's going to offer ideas and resources. So yeah, we're going to come up with ideas. Are we saying, should we do them all? Definitely not, but we should do some, at least one. And I'm going to continue offering my help.
Yeah. Seems like a good breaking point. Anthony is jumping on. Anthony, as soon as you are on.
I'm on.
All right. So we're going to jump to your update and go right ahead. The floor is yours.
Oh, okay. Hi, everyone. So this is Anthony Caiozzo, and Karen, on where we are with the project. There's effectively, I think, three sort of parallel tracks. One is obviously fundraising. I don't know if any of you have been tracking, what we've been putting out on our website by way of updates. But we just broke $180,000 this past weekend with the toll booth that we ran in the center of town, and which netted us somewhere around $3,500 in donations. There was a woman actually who drove through town. I don't know who this person was because I didn't take the donation, but she gave us $500. She gave us 1050s. So it was an exciting day. Then So that's track number one. Track number two is the engineering and design work, which is underway. We're working towards getting all of the resources in place to schedule and execute a geotechnical survey. So we got together with Dave Passios and folks in the DPW. I think it was some point last year to dig some test holes. So we're going to need to dig more test holes and do a bit more thorough of an analysis. So we're actually engaging a third-party organization who's going to be doing the site work with us and then producing a formal report that's going to be going to the two skate park design organizations that are bidding for the business, so they can create much more of a detailed set of plans and something that's a bit more appropriate for the terrain within the facility. And then the third track is all of the local logistical and legal work that is on the heels of that. So Greg Roy, who's not here, is the one who's actually tasked with the second and the third items, and he's really doing a bang up job of keeping things on track. We've produced a Gantt chart that describes the entire process from where we were probably a month and a half ago to having a shovel ready project, and it's about 6 months of elapsed time. So we're on track right now to basically have a project that we can present to you guys for final approval. Obviously there'll be some interim touch points along the way, but we're figuring around Thanksgiving of this year so that we can get the go ahead to begin site clearing over the winter months, so we can actually formally start construction in the spring.
So you're looking to possibly start doing site work this winter and possible construction spring of 2023?
Correct.
Okay.
Karen, I know you met with the town council and creating a legal document. Where are we at with that?
When you say, so once we have more detail on the dates of, we needed a starting point to start something now. If they were a year away from, and well, actually at the time when we met with the town council, it was probably last fall. It was too far away from it. So as we're seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, I'll work with Anthony and go back with town council to get the information that we need for town council to execute, or not execute, because we'd be the one to execute it, but put together that document. And we, Anthony, did you look into the performance bonds at all?
We've looked into it. It's not something that we would be providing. It's something that our contractor would be signing up for.
Okay.
But for that to happen, Anthony, by the time we draft the legal document, you would need to have your contractor under contract. Is that correct?
Very much so, yeah. And I imagine should be in a position to award the business to one of these two vendors. In a perfect world, I'm going to say by the end of the summer.
Okay.
This way they can get this slotted into their build schedule, because obviously, this isn't just one person coming out with a shovel and digging a hole and pouring some concrete. There's quite a few people, materials, and site logistics that need to take place and start getting cemented. Again, you figure Q4 this year.
Okay.
Q3, Q4. Yep.
Okay. So by the time it feels like it's a little bit of like what comes first, the chicken or the egg. I'm sure, your contractor would want something from the town allowing them to do this, but I'm sure you can find a way out of it or figure out how to get it done.
Fortunately, we're not the first people to have to, build something like this.
Perfect.
Or do something like this in this method. So I'm sure there's people that are on the town side that understand and that can work with Greg and the team to be able to put a timeline together against this.
And I can reach out to town council to see when, what he needs for a time frame to put together whatever this document is that we'd have to, we have to approve it, make sure it has everything that we as a park commission want in it. And then it would go to the skate park folks to sign. So if it's anything like the RFP process and that sort of thing, it's municipal government, it's slow. So I will, I'll reach out to Adam as well and see what he needs for timeline. Adam meaning our town council, what timelines are needed to get those documents together. Okay,
Super, thank you.
great. Thank you so much.
Two other quick things.
Mhm.
So one, I don't know if any of you have heard, but if you haven't, I'll mention it here. We're doing another fundraiser this coming weekend. We're going to be actually the people that own a dumpster company in Fitchburg have donated three large dumpsters to the project, and we have been selling spots in the dumpster or slots in the dumpster of varying sizes to allow people to empty their basements, garages, what have you, and then come down and dump, or basically have, fractional dumpster access for this event. We are probably 80% of the way sold out, 85% of the way sold out for the event. So if you guys have any trash and know anyone that has any trash and is not really looking to take on the cost of a full dumpster, but is just looking to get rid of a car, SUV or truck's worth of stuff, this is a great event for them to get hooked up with this weekend. And full details are on our website under the, I think it's called the dumpster fundraiser. And then we're putting finishing touches in place with the Mass DOT and the schools to pull together an event that's a bit more grandiose than our Learn to Skate event that we held, I think, 2 years ago now. We are going to be doing a bike, skate, scooter rodeo with the Mass DOT in the upper lot of the school on August 23rd with a rain date of the 24th. And it's going to be awesome. It's designed for kids that are, I'd say, between 4 and 10 years old, so younger kids. And they come out and they set up an obstacle course throughout the parking lot. They run a bunch of different stations. We'll be selling, and I say selling, it's a free event, so it's a give back to the community sort of thing. And then we'll be coupling this, with a Learn to Skate function as well. So it'll be quite the day.
Sounds good. That sounds like a fun
That's gonna be
one.
awesome. Yeah.
Awesome. Great. Do you need anything from us at this point, Anthony?
I don't believe so. No. I imagine at some point, Greg's going to be in touch with you, Karen, just to keep you apprised on what the schedule is regarding the digging of those test holes. Again, same location as last time. And we're just navigating, having to engage a third party, coordinating that with the town, the parks, to make sure everything's on the up and up.
Perfect.
But it's going to be rather non-invasive again. It should be quick. We'll be in and out in a couple hours.
Awesome. Great. Does anybody else have anything, Anthony?
Yeah, just a quick question. Anthony, are they coming with equipment or do we have to organize that also?
So Greg's quarterbacking that. I believe as of right now, I think he's going to handle that himself.
Okay.
But I will know more for sure by Friday afternoon.
Okay, that's fine. I got to touch base with Greg on a couple other things also. I'll try to
Perfect.
get
Yeah,
an update.
definitely mention it to him.
Great. Chris, Arana, anything for Anthony?
No, I'm good.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Anthony.
Good work.
Oh, thank you for your time. Appreciate being able to jump in,
If you
jump
find
out.
anyone else in town square giving out $50 bills, just tell them where I live.
I really wish I knew where it was too. It was awesome.
Yeah, that must have
awesome.
been pretty exciting. So thank you so
Yeah.
much. And
Thank
we
you.
will catch you later. Thank you.
Have a good night, guys. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
All right. Do we need to circle back up to programming? Are we good there? Can we go on to our next?
Well, I just want to ask Rob, to summarize, to finalize, what is that we can do to help you or assist you with the summer and fall programming ideas? I almost want to have an actionable item for our next meeting. So you've got a bunch of ideas from us.
Yeah.
So,
a good
so
question.
what to expect for our next meeting when we see you. You know, what do you have in place and what can we do for you in the meantime?
I wouldn't have anything specific as of right now. I've just there's been a lot of work on you mentioned websites and the MyRec site or something like that. It's been very difficult working. I've actually just established a store onto the MyRec shop, which is going to simplify the process of purchasing tickets and whatnot. So that's kind of off the table. To be quite honest, I'm not sure what you can do for me other than if there's any regulations that I'm missing. Those seem to be the things that are coming up. Anything to do with children, I would love to have volunteers that are already Corey background checked. If anybody already has that done, then a list of them would be great. But
I'm
anything this.
Yeah, I
Yes,
have the form filled out. I just have to get it over to Julie. It's typical me dragging my feet. I get it done and then don't get it over. So I'd like to ask you to focus on best MA sports, the stuff that is not going to take a lot of manpower from your side other than the administrative piece. And if, you know, I think that trying to get swim lessons set up is going to be a challenge in itself for you.
Yes.
Especially, you know, Liz has done it, but she's also new to this position. So kinks from last year, I think, need to be worked out that she's obviously aware of. So if you could focus on some of, like, you know, just some of the small, easier, low hanging fruit, I think that's would be my request. And
Absolutely.
you know, we can try to put together some other, even if it's just a single day, you know, things, you know, when Karen gets her act together, she can say, hey, Rob, why don't you throw a craft program up on the calendar and we'll do it at the town beach in the, you know, in the fenced in area or something like that. Marshall Park, we've done programs at Marshall Park. So yeah, that's what I got on that front.
Absolutely.
All right. So the next topic. Yep.
I mean, Rob, do you think by next, like, so we don't throw ideas at you on our next meeting, perhaps you could come with some of the things that you think you'd like to do that we can volunteer to help you with some of these?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
without a doubt. I think that it's definitely been vocalized that I will have at least areas that if I need help with that I could have you fill in. I will certainly
Okay.
articulate that for you.
And some of the programs through some of the, you know, let's call it program because it is the adult, you know, if you come up with, hey, let's try to do a soccer league or a softball league, you know, I'd like to do that. And, you know, just coming in, you saying that versus us, it will be a huge step forward.
Yes, I agree.
We're towards the end of May, so if it was, I mean, I'm happy to cast that net, or if Anna wants to cast that net on the Facebook interweb to say, is there interest in, you know, an adult softball league? Well, I'm sure we can identify someone that would be there attending regularly that could kind of provide some oversight. You know, like it's for the summer, and then we can come back to you and say there is interest in.
Yeah, if there's any, if you determine a need that can be filled.
Field space kind of deal or whatever. It's, I mean, it's not really anything other than reserving the softball field. I think everything else kind of runs it.
Right.
It'd be creating a registration link on MyRec, I guess, would be the only other piece of.
And I do have this is why I think we ran something through our previous rec director for adult programming. And I don't know if it was soccer or softball, but we had to have a release form. And I do have somewhere in my abyss of a computer, I think I have a copy of that. I may not because it's a newer computer, but
there was one for softball. I know
yeah,
that.
so
And there
I'm
is one
sure
for soccer. It's the same one. I think they use the same one that the school uses.
yeah, so we can find that. So, and I think it's probably the same form that would be used we used it for the youth softball program too, didn't we, Chris? The youth soccer program that year that we did pick up when.
I don't think I don't remember there being an additional release form. I think
it was just online. Okay.
It was just on the MyRec.
Okay.
And parents just signed whatever on MyRec when they were, I think it was loaded in there kind of thing.
Okay.
I don't remember we never collected paper, I don't think. What I know is I know going to soccer or going to the softball league for the adults, there's usually or basketball at the school runs. So there's paper collection and check collection and stuff like that.
Yeah, okay. All right, the next thing is 2022 spring usage compliance. Where are we, Rob, in terms of porta potties? I know that they must have had some compliance with the Board of Health. I don't think I would just really like to understand where we are with the whole porta potty thing and the dumpster situations and that kind of thing.
Yeah, there's still a few kinks. We didn't streamline it to no extent. We did have a few hiccups where the Board of Health came back, but they were provided all the information they needed where we completely averted them having to remove any porta potty facilities. So everybody at this point,
Rob, be aware, they were removed.
They were removed.
were they removed? I
Removed
did
from the
not.
policy, At least 3
Yep,
days.
they were absolutely removed.
Okay, so then I'm wrong by that. They supplied all the information, and we had copious amounts of paper, the maps and everything after that point. So I did not physically see those porta potties removed. So my apologies. So yeah, they weren't compliant. We sent out the emails. We made the phone calls. I wasn't aware of them being removed, but they were able to supply everything to get them back reinstated.
So they
So-
supplied the stuff on the Board of Health side.
Yes.
Do we have what we required from them for not only the porta potties, but for the dumpsters that they have out?
For as of right now, they have all the information for both the dumpsters and the porta potties. I have not been able to verify if seeing if they're locked. I've been down there; they're locked, and I'm not sure at the end of any game day. There was one issue. I'm not sure if I should mention any particular names, but the trash policies seem to be not applied to everybody, and I was asked to remove trash on a couple occasions to where I had to lay down the law of the policy in terms of it's carry in, carry out. So this can't go on. There's not enough staff for it. I'm not here to take any of it from anybody, but like I had to. These people know the policy, and they still try to test the waters, I guess, in terms of what they can do and what they can't do.
So I guess I'm
I guess
looking
the
more.
question is, I still don't have a clear answer, Rob. Do you have the
Yep.
paperwork in your office for the portable toilets and the dumpster?
I have the paperwork for the portable toilets for the leagues that are in right now. Yes, but
All
for
3
the dump,
locations.
not for the dumpsters. No.
No, I'm talking about all 3 locations for the toilets and 2 locations for dumpsters.
Yes, I was able to clarify that today with the Board of Health.
So
I don't think, Karen, we need to belabor this tonight, but we need to clean this up again, because as you and I have spoken, our policy clearly states that the paperwork comes to the Parks Commission first before anything is placed on the property, and we are tasked to pass that on to the Board of Health. And again, that policy was totally ignored this year.
so here's and I'm trying to figure out, I'm sort of at a loss for words right now. So last year, Rob, we passed a policy on porta potties and dumpsters. And the policies for our policies are found in our general folder. And let me read the first one to you. Placement of portable toilets at all properties under Park Commission custody is at the discretion of the Park Commission and shall be requested at the time of field use application or no less than 7 calendar days prior to delivery. And we have the same thing for dumpsters. We don't deal with the day-to-day stuff. So it's, when we have to get involved, it's frustrating because our policies aren't being followed, and we're watching that go down. We're watching them not being followed. It's concerning to me that we, for another year, have situations going on that we do not have compliance of our own park commission policies. The documentation is supposed to come to us. I was told by the Board of Health admin last year that the document, because we own the fields, it was supposed to come to us, and then we were supposed to forward it on to them. At the end of the day, I don't care how it works, but our policies have to be followed, as well as their policy, the Board of Health policies. They're supposed to be locked no later than sunset by the renter or their designee, or at the conclusion of the day's last event. There's, it's now my understanding that the portable facilities are, co-rented. I don't know what word I want to use, but the high school is participating in the rental of those facilities. And I'm not sure that the Board of Health is aware of that. So when we look at, them getting locked and who's the responsibility, who are we supposed to contact when that doesn't happen? I guess I'm just concerned that at least on the porta potty and dumpster policies right now, as I look at them, that our own policies that we passed last year, which are very similar to the Board of Health. So it's not like anybody has to, go out and find additional documentation, is not being followed. It's our policy. So I don't know how long it took to find out that these porta potties were down there. I can point fingers at the Little League because they were very aware of our policies. But at the end of the day, it's up to the town to enforce the policies of the commission. We are a policy setting board. So there's that. At the same time, it then makes me wonder, you had mentioned the whole trash thing. We are carry in, carry out. I don't know. I know who it is that contacted you, and I have no problem putting it out there. The high school contacted Rob because they wanted trash picked up. We haven't had trash picked up down there. I know we didn't have it last year, so I don't know who picked up their trash. I don't know if, somebody from the DPW drove down, but, 2 DPW directors ago, he had removed all those barrels. So any barrels that were there were the barrels that belong to the Little League, and they know they're responsible for their trash, and the schools. So, again, I don't know how better way to say to these people, this is our policy. All I know is that we need to make sure that it's being enforced. However that gets done on the day-to-day side.
Yeah. I can honestly say I think it was a misinterpretation on my side in terms of who they're submitting the paperwork to. I never okayed any porta potties. I never okayed any of it. So I agree with you. They're not being enforced. If we should definitely.
So Rob, let's get into like practical questions. The first one, as I hear, I'm not as versed about all the details as Karen and Dave maybe are. When something comes to you, are you aware of all the policies that we have?
Yeah, for the most part, at least for the in what we're talking about right now, the dumpsters and the porta potties. Yes.
Oh, okay, so when this happened, you didn't realize that the procedures, what was happening didn't match the policy?
To be clear, no. It had to be presented to somebody. The porta potties were already in place, and that's where the storm of they had to be removed quickly started to happen. So I got everything after the fact, and that's where we sit today. We have individuals that violated the policy, yes, and they still have.
The question is, are our policies as of today? So let's not look at the history or how things laid out. But if you were to look at the policies, two very simple policies, because the languages are very simple, very similar to one another, is everything that's on the park, that is happening on the parks, in compliance with the policy, the two policies laid out? To your understanding.
To my understanding, we have all the information that
Now, are the policies being, are the policies followed?
they weren't followed.
They weren't followed, but are the policies, let's say, completed? Like the work to get them. So they were not followed, but do we have the paperwork? Are things being locked? Like all these
Yes.
things that
Yes.
everything is being followed.
Yes, they are
But
being
you
followed.
had to go get the trash.
I had to, physically remove trash. I had to.
So that's not a policy that's being followed.
No, they're not. And that definitely needs to be addressed. Yeah, without a doubt, that's it's not being followed.
So,
One of the things that you got to understand is that we have a couple of organizations in town that have been allowed to act like they own these fields for many years. And now that we do have very strict and clear policies in place, they just don't feel that they are required to follow them. They do their own things.
I don't
And that's
disagree,
it.
but
In a nutshell,
I
that's
think
what they do.
I
don't listen to our
disagree with
policies.
your language, Dave.
Oh,
I disagree
don't.
with your language.
I do not at all, because I've dealt.
I
I've
know you
been
don't
dealing
disagree with yourself, and that's fine. But here's the
Karen and I
thing.
are dealing with it
These are
directly.
these are organizations that have been in town, and they have successfully run their programs with very little support from the parks. They learn to survive, and we're trying to offer support, and there is the good, and it is the learning to work together. I will not categorize these leagues as they act as they own things. It's not that.
You haven't talked to them standing on the field.
I'm sorry?
I said,
Can you
you
repeat
haven't
that?
talked to them while you're standing on a field.
I have been
telling them
part
what
of
to do
them,
beyond
Dave.
policy.
I have been part of them. I have been part of these organizations that, you know what, with very little support, they put a program up and they serve many kids. So while we wanted them to come to the table and work with us, I think categorizing them as they act as if they own the town is incorrect, and I do not agree with it.
No, that's fine. You can disagree all you want. But I won't
And you can disagree with me all you want.
okay, so
Okay.
here's the deal. Here's what I'm gonna say on that, because I agree to a great extent with Dave. Here's the thing on it, is that for the 5 years, trying to enforce policy so that our fields are taken care of, that they're there for the use of the town, has been a difficult task. For 5 years, we've tried to get people to the table to work with us. I'm tired. I am absolutely tired of every season sitting here saying, why aren't we in compliance? Why are they not listening? And whether it be one group or 10 groups, the reality is we are not the same commission that was in place 7 years ago, who did things the way they were going to do it. That's fine. That's the way they ran it. But now here we are trying to make a place that, is usable for the community. I understand what you're saying. They have a lot of kids, they serve a lot of kids, but at the same time, they don't own these fields.
I think categorizing these organizations as they act as they own, I think it's not proper. And I'll add something. Despite the hard work the you guys done, even before I joined, and Karen, I'll give you a lot of credit. Parks Commission in Lunenburg, it's more than it has ever been as active. But when the other commissions existed, they did some work. It wasn't what it was at the time. It's like you can't look back and judge history. Last year, we had a person who works in parks and didn't, who went on like, I mean, just looking back less than a year ago, there was a lot of transitions that, you know, if these organizations were on the survival mode, they wouldn't have gone through their program. All I'm asking is, let's, you know, unless we can look forward and do the best that we can and keep hoping for that, categorizing organizations that are actually doing work that is good for the people who we are trying to serve as acting as they own the town, I don't think that's helpful, useful, and to be honest, 100% accurate. That's my thing. So
That's right. I, at the end of the day, I want compliance. I want,
I agree with you,
You know,
and
I
I'm not
don't
I'm
wanna
not
repeat
advocating for
of-
that.
I don't want a repeat of last summer. I don't. I never want to see last summer happen again.
We all with you, but let's remember that what went down that was so bad with last summer was not these leagues. They had a porta potty.
It's
And-
absolutely started with us.
It started with us. Thank you for going straight to the point on that.
It started with us. I mean, at the same time, you know, other issues get found out along the lines, and it is what it is. I'm not
We're
faulting
all right.
previous committee, board, whatever. They ran things the way they wanted to, and, you know, and our board going forward will be run in the way that it runs. You know, we're
Right.
trying to do stuff here. So, all right. So I just want, Rob, if you could please go back into the general folder. I don't care if you have to re-forward 1,000 times the porta potty and dumpster policy. I don't think they are in compliance at all on the dumpster. I don't think
Okay.
anybody has any documentation anywhere on those dumpsters, and we need it.
right.
I do need to have an agenda item, probably at the next meeting. When we put this policy together, I don't know why November 1st was stuck in my head as that's when the fall season ended. It's not, it's like the middle or end of November. So we need to get the dates matched up. But we're not past November 1st at this point anyway. So that's here nor there. I do want to make sure that they are in compliance with the parks policy. Otherwise it doesn't make sense.
I will make sure I forward that information. Yeah.
Can you, our other policies around the usage of our field comes with like our field use agreements and things like that. I'm trying to pull it up right now. Hold on 1 second. Have they is the current users are Little League, the high school, and has the Phillies started yet?
They will be starting. I just received their schedule yesterday.
Okay. And the school has a user agreement with us. We have reciprocal use. Is the Little League, have they paid in full the amount?
They have
that
not.
they owe? They have
No.
not paid. Do you know how many players they have paid for?
Not off the top of my head, but they still owe us. They're in the rears for the previous season as well.
They're in arrears for the previous season.
Yes.
Okay. I'm just looking at.
That was paid. Wasn't that an item we talked? I thought that was paid, but they still.
I don't think I'm just looking through our.
No, they had they sent an email saying that they will square up. They just have not.
Okay.
Rob, do they owe for more than their fall season that they had? Are they all the way back in arrears to the regular baseball season? Spring, early summer?
No. They owe a fraction of something from last year, as well as they need to give me the full roster for this year.
So
That
when you
What
say
they owe from last year is just fall. Is fall
Is it-
baseball.
Yes.
just fall, or is that summer as well?
No, just fall,
Okay.
I believe.
Thank you.
Okay, so if you could follow up on the fall payments, they need to, they're so resistant on giving a roster. I don't even, whatever, that's fine, if they can give us numbers. I would like to know, they should be breaking them down by in town and out of town, because we have a different rate for out of town. So fall, and I'd like the spring, follow up on the spring payment and the spring numbers. If you could ask them for a breakdown by division, that would be great. Making notes as I go. What's something that I had on? Have they? How are they set up right now for using the field? Like, do they give you a time frame that they're going to be using it? Do they give you a schedule?
Yeah, they gave me a time frame, and I want to say a tentative schedule, because there's rain dates that they won't have until necessary. It's a very vague schedule at best, but I do have a schedule for them, and it's on the my rec calendar.
Okay. Can you, in all of your free time, whenever you find that to be, go through the field use policy to see if we need to make some amendments? Because what we had approved last year was that all applications must state the actual time you wish to use the field, no block reservation. If we need to change that, it's fine. I mean, we certainly don't want to keep something that's not working. But right now, I think the more important thing, sorry, I'm reading it. I think the more important thing is the financial piece of it. I'm going through the field use policy, and we actually have November 1st. I'm going to pull out all these documents, and I'm going to compare dates, make sure all of our documents have the right dates on it. And they all match instead of, it looks like a free for all right now. So I'll work on that. All right.
Do we have those in a central folder, Karen, that we can all access?
I do. I passed it out a few months ago.
I feel like I have it somewhere.
I do. I'll send it again. It's in a general folder in the Google Drive. I can send it out again to you. Let's see. Have we had any requests for summer usage yet?
The Phillies are the only ones that will be. Well, yeah, I did have a company. I'm not exactly sure what league or they're from. They seem to be from Florida. They deal with a little league, and I don't know why it came up, but they sent me an email just asking if they can use it Thursday after 5, and if that's okay with me. And I'm like, well, no, you need to fill out the field usage forms. And they're like, oh, well, how much is it? And we've been going back and forth for a couple weeks now, and there will be an outside league coming in to use it for the summer. So
okay. The little league will be using it for this summer, if you want to just sort of mark that in your brain. And they need to be reminded that their summer season is not covered by their spring season usage.
Yes.
Fee. So they will have a summer. They will have a summer season. It's usually 1 or 2 teams.
All right. I will make sure to make them aware of that.
Okay. Does anybody else have anything on compliance for policies? Perfect. Do you have any updates on the Wallace Court repairs?
No, there's not. We have not moved anywhere forward with that. The gentleman that said he would get back to me has not gotten back to me. So
Okay.
I will reach out to him again to see what his recommendations were, because he seemed to say he was going to send out somebody to look at it. And
it's falling into disrepair fairly quickly.
It was falling into disrepair as soon as it went down. That was not a quality.
The summer, the first summer, I feel, or the first season after it seemed okay, but it's just, I don't know. I didn't expect it to be as bad as it was.
No,
this past. So All right.
Yeah, if you look at Marshall Park, the tennis courts are still holding up better than that basketball court is. And
That's scary.
and they have trees growing through it at Marshall. So
And Wallace
amazing.
gets a lot. So, and like that's, although
Yeah.
it's still getting used. It makes me wonder when I look at it, and I'll be interested to see what this gentleman has to say. I'm wondering if somebody went on the courts in the winter and shoveled, because some of those marks, they look a bit more than just worn up. Like, I don't know. I don't know anything about that surface, but it's one of the things
Yeah.
that comes to mind.
If it's anything like oh, go ahead. Sorry, Dave.
Yeah, sorry about that. If the surface hadn't delaminated, there wouldn't be a problem shoveling.
Yeah.
I know there is an elderly gentleman in the neighborhood that does shovel the courts off in the wintertime. I've seen him out there.
Can he come to my house? Does anybody else have anything on Wallace?
Oh, well, just one other item, just to roll back one. Do we need to send the trash policy to the baseball, softball teams as part of the?
Baseball,
that's the-
softball for Little League or for
No, for high school, sorry, to the schools.
Rob, will you send that off to the athletic director?
I will as well.
And
If that's the question that they're wondering, they need trash removed. We want to make sure it's clear to them, I guess.
Yep. All right. The next one is going to be geocache placements. This is 100% me because the young man had another commitment. So last week, I don't know how many people saw it. A senior from high school by the name of John McCormick went in front of the select board looking for permission to put geocaches. Does everybody know what a geocache is?
Yes.
Do you know what one is? Okay, so they were looking for, Rob, do you know what one is? Rob Thompson?
Oh yeah.
Okay,
Yes, of course.
so he was looking for permission to put 4 geocaches on what he classified as town property. 2 of those properties, however, were actually Park Commission properties. Veterans Memorial Park and the Town Pound, which is right next to Marshall Pond. Let me see if I can pull up what he presented. Give me one quick second. I'm going to share my screen. All right, do you guys see that? Do you see something that says geocaching within Lunenburg? Okay, I'm going to scroll through. This is all, his history of geocaching and whatnot. I want to show the locations. So cache number 2 that he is proposing is to put a small magnetic box, and I can show you in a minute, on the solar panel that's located at Veterans Park. That's what that picture is at cache number 2. And the other one is cache number 4, which is at the Town Pound. He'd be locating it. The X is that fence that's in the zoomed in picture. What he would be placing is the black magnetic box. It's a key box that would be just a magnet on the back of the solar display. And inside he would have basically a logbook. And then the other one at the Town Pound is it's like a plastic test tube that he's going to camouflage with duct tape. And inside is going to be a small log, a pencil. And then what he means by swag are the little prizes that, some people will swap out. Kids get a kick out of that kind of stuff in that tube that he would then hide. So the select board gave permission for him to put him in these 4 locations. And then, after a couple of conversations last week, I sent them an email and I said, hold up a second. That's actually property that falls under the Parks Commission. The final approval needs to come from us. And I also requested that they stop overstepping and, trying to make decisions for Parks Commission without our involvement. So last night, John McCormick went back in front of the select board, asked a few questions, got some clarification that he needed on the other two placements. And I had jumped on quickly as well. I did tell him that I didn't foresee anybody from our commission having an issue with these two caches at those two locations, and that I would, let you guys know about them this evening. So I'm looking this evening for any feedback you have on cache number 2 and cache number 4. And if nobody has any issues with it, a motion to approve him placing these two caches.
How are they made? I guess the only question, like, how are they maintained? What's the longevity of these, I guess? So like it's just like, I don't know if consequence is the right word, but
So
plastic tube breaks in the stone wall, or the solar panel gets run over by a car. Like is there any obligation for a cache to be put back?
Nope.
He's a senior, so I'm assuming he's off to.
Yeah, so I can
Wherever.
actually answer all that. So the way the geocaching works is that there is a website that you log the coordinates on. So when people go to try to find these caches, they know where to get their hints, basically. And as people find them, they make notes. So I'm going to use my own geocache as an example. We have a geocache in Maine. I haven't been to it in years. We know it's still there, and we know it's still in good condition based on the feedback from those comments that are left. The same thing would happen in this situation. We would not be responsible to replace it. If something happens and somebody stole it, or that solar panel got run over, we as a park commission wouldn't have to replace it. John's father, his family lives in town and they're not going anywhere. So if there's a maintenance need, and John's not here because he's going to Connecticut in the fall, his dad can go over and check those and make any repairs that he needs to. At the end of the day, it's such a small piece. They're small caches. They shouldn't be too invasive to anything. And I think they're going to be relatively easily maintained just by the people going to find them. Yeah.
I don't have any problems with it. I just want to make sure that I understood what
Yep.
And
if
the
there was any
one-
obligation or how they're maintained. So it's cool.
the one on the town pound
Mhm.
is not going to be on the stone wall, right? It's going to be on the fence? Because I think there was a discussion regarding that. Because the stone wall is actually very, very historical.
So I believe it was to do with the sign tucked behind the sign. Let me look again. Let's see.
I think he first came in thinking of doing the stone wall, but then he changed the location, but it wasn't clear to me.
Yeah, I was hoping he had it in here. That would require memory that I don't have this evening. I can
Right.
certainly go back and ask him.
Right. Yeah,
where
so
he's-
I love bringing more traffic to parks and anything related to parks. I would be concerned about the town pound. It's very unique. I love that location. I would only be concerned about if there's hidden very well and it's not clear where it should be, and then people are trying to move rocks, or even that gate I don't think it dates back to 1790, but it's a hand forged gate. So that's the only thing. Like it would, I don't think
Yeah.
I don't think it would be a good thing if the location of it means people would be trying to find something and therefore disrupting what's there.
Yep.
I know that gate tends to be locked, which I think is a good thing because it's a special place. It's an historical marker almost. So the town pound is the only place that I feel like we I would even curious to know how it is described, the location of the cache.
Yep. So I can do two things. I can go back to, obviously, I'm going to go back to him anyway. And, you know, with the request that it's not in a place that needs to be hunted for to the point that people would feel the need to disassemble any part of the wall. There's
Or
other
the
places,
gate.
like, you know, I've seen caches that are hidden behind trees. I've seen them in the, like a little, you know, on a branch of a tree, so
Right.
camouflage you would never see it. I've seen them that sort of, you know, sort of pop out of the ground. I think there's a bunch of places he could put it that wouldn't have anything to do with the wall. So
The wall or the gate?
the wall, like, yeah.
Okay.
Well, looking at the gate, I don't see any place that he could put.
How sturdy is that sign on that wall? Like I haven't, I mean, I walked by it, but I haven't never touched it. Like, what is it? You know, what's the
Yeah, I haven't
sign
been
held to
down
the
there.
wall by? Like I kind of, I guess that's the same. I would have the same concern, Anna, that if it was tucked behind the sign and someone's digging it out and the sign's loose and it falls off, then we're,
Yeah, let me go back to him. I don't think
I love
that,
the idea. It's awesome.
yeah,
Right.
I don't think it would be his intention for anything to be destroyed. That's sort of
There's a
goes.
little grave site still right in front of the town down there too, on the corner of the pond.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I will go back to him with that feedback. And I don't believe he had placed him yet. But again, it's one of those things where even if he had placed it, it's easily changeable / movable. It just going in and editing the coordinates. It's not the end all be all of,
Right.
you know, it wasn't going to make or break the project. So, you know, when I said to him, you know, go ahead and I'll put it in front of our commission, I knew, you know, obviously that I could go back to him and be like, this is where their concern is, just make sure it's not, you know, stuck in the wall where we're disassembling the wall. But looking at the picture, I have a couple of thoughts of places that he could put him that wouldn't be near that wall. So I'll go back to him and I can direct him to this as well.
Okay.
So would anybody be against a motion to allow the cache to go in at the Veterans Memorial Park, the magnetic one along the solar array or solar panel, and a fourth one going in at the town pound, as long as it's not within the wall or the gate area?
Right. No, I think that's good.
Was that a motion or?
No, you
It was
make
a
the motion. I
motion,
like your motions better, Chris.
You can second, you can,
I'll second what you said. It kind of sounded like it was a motion in the form of a question. So it was
Okay.
like Jeopardy. So I'll
right, so
second your motion.
I'll make a
Karen.
motion that we approve the geocaching placement in Veterans Park as prescribed by the person who's placing the cache. And I'll make a motion that we approve the placement of cache in town pound as long as it does not, it's not made part of a historical feature of the pound.
That's a good way of phrasing it.
Nice job, Anna.
And you're
I'll
seconding
second that.
Chris?
I'll second that.
Yeah. Does anybody have any comments before we?
Yeah,
go?
Very quick comments.
Yeah.
I believe on the site, it's been a long time since I did geocaching, but I think it's actually been improved since the days when I did it. I think he could also insert a warning or a plea to all geocachers, especially at the historic site, basically stating that this is a very sensitive historic site. Please respect it, or something to that effect. And
Yeah, he can. I meant to say that too. We can ask him to
Uh,
put something on this.
just to be a devil's advocate, I didn't get a chance to drive by, but there is a good chance that solar panel is on state property.
It's possible. It's possible. When I looked at the GIS page, it looks like it was on ours.
That's fine. I
So
don't think.
that's- Yeah, no. I said the
It's
same
off the road, and you'd have to really work at it to drive over it, to tell you the truth. You got to go through heavy chains and telephone pole fence and all that stuff. But anyway.
All right, let's roll call vote this. Anna,
I,
Dave,
I
Chris.
Aye.
And it's an aye for myself. So I'll get back to John.
Thank him for bringing it
Yeah.
to our attention too. That's considered.
Yeah. I think it's a cool project. I think it's a,
Is it for anything? Is it just something he wants to do, or is it for
it's a senior project. So in Lunenburg, I don't know how long ago it started, but they do senior projects. And this was what his senior project was. It's something that he has been doing for quite a long time, and wanted to bring some more to Lunenburg in areas that he felt weren't frequented as often as they probably could be. He did cache number 1 was on a stop sign, and cache number 3 was on a stop sign. Those locations are going to have to be changed. The police chief, that was not his preferred location to put him on a stop sign. So I believe those are going to be changed. But yeah, he did a nice job on this, and he did a great presentation at the select board meeting last week. So yep, it was very good. So all right, let me stop sharing my page because I just seem to scroll and then I'm like, oh gosh, they're looking at it as I'm scrolling. Who knows what they're looking at? All right, so 2022 beach season and building updates. I can do a quick update on the building, which is town manager is working on the asbestos remediation. That's the next step. It will not be done in time for that building to be used this summer because the remediation has to happen and then the work actually has to be done. So we are still moving ahead with portable facilities. Rob, have you been in touch with the Board of Health regarding those portables?
I spoke with them today. It finally got up to Neshoba, and I got a mixed reaction from Neshoba. He wasn't happy, but he wasn't displeased. So I was hoping to get a hold of him today. He didn't contact me before the close of business, and I don't know where we stand.
What was his concern?
I think his concern was, is this the best place we could possibly put it? And from my standpoint, I feel like we've exhausted, a few of the options. Is it the best place? I believe so. From his standpoint, I'm still yet to talk with him, but from safety standpoint, I believe it's one of the safest places to have it. I think his concerns would be if they got tipped over, and so I'm considering a containment plan, maybe some sort of barrier structure that goes around these things to help contain any potential spills. That's just something I came up with today. I haven't quite.
Conservation, I did run it by conservation. If you remember from one of our last meetings, I said I'd finish running with that since I had started it. And I spoke with Matt Marrow via email, and he didn't have any concerns with it at that location. And I would have thought if anybody was going to have a concern, it would have been that department.
Yes.
Yeah, Rob,
And
honestly, I wouldn't overthink this whole thing.
Yeah.
You've got to put the paperwork in the Board of Health anyway. If they set conditions, we can question those conditions at a board meeting. But we need to move this stuff forward quickly. So
they've received all the paperwork. I've submitted it to our Board of Health, as well as they forward that to Neshoba. And as far as I know, Neshoba has to be the final say.
Yeah, I'm not so sure that's totally correct because they just had a hearing this past Monday night for the annual renewal of the permit of portable toilets at Shady Point. So
Okay.
They come before the board every year.
Okay.
Neshoba has to do their thing, but the final say is the local board.
All right. Can you just make sure you're staying on top of that, Rob, so that we're not
Yes.
caught in a pinch?
Time for build out too, right? I mean, how long is it going to take to build this out? That's not a level spot.
Well, I'm ordering sand from whoever a vendor. We're bringing in additional sand to cover some of the ledging that's in there, and the spot that it's proposed for is more leveled than any other portion of that beach. It will require a little bit of handwork.
You're still putting another gate in too?
Yes, the 26th, the gate, it will be, I guess it will be receiving the gate, and I believe it's going to be installed on that day as well.
Oh, cool. Nice.
Rob,
Do
just
we,
taking
as far as
notes.
policy goes with porta potty policy that we have in place, just so we're following the same protocol that we,
Yes,
we're asking others to follow.
Yep.
Rob needs
I
to give
I
us,
forwarded to Karen.
yeah, like, would you, like, like, it seems silly, but I mean, just so we're following the whole chain properly, like it's, the beach season is, it's filed with the park commission, then we're filing it back with you, probably, I guess is, I mean, just to,
Yes,
it does seem silly, but just to make sure
No.
that we're following the policy we have.
no, I'm going through the motions. I forwarded the paperwork to Karen as well as the Board of Health, and like I said, they forwarded it on to Neshoba, and the response I got, he was happy. Yeah, he's not happy.
And
He-
Chris, we, at our last meeting, we actually, we voted on the location, so I think we're.
We don't need to have the paperwork back.
Well, we'll
with
have the
map
paperwork.
Or whatever, like,
w-
I just
we'll
want to make sure we're not called out
we have
by
it.
not following,
Yep. So-
what we're asking others to.
Yep, after our meeting, Rob put together, and I can forward it to everybody. He does, because this stuff had to be submitted to the Board of Health as well. So, we have the, the placement of a portable toilet at all properties, is at the discretion of the Park Commission. We've obviously approved that. Rob will have a copy of the service agreement, because obviously he is the renter of the facility, and he will get that forwarded to us once that he has the final version of that. They're going to be locked anyway, because that whole area will get locked, but that will be one of the tasks of the lifeguards this year, is to lock the facilities. Obviously, we don't have to worry about the dates because it's only open in the summer. We obviously know that the cleanliness and upkeep is the responsibility of the renter, and Rob has all the information on what to do if we need an additional cleaning. So I think we have hit our own policies.
Yes.
Basically.
And-
So, great.
Yeah, to include, I ordered some pop-ups for additional shelter, because the only shelter will be the deck that is attached, which I believe they can still use. We'll still have to have a point of sales out there, so I'm working on how that's all going to work out. I'm not sure exactly. It might be an iPad, it might be a laptop that has to be brought with. We're still not sure, but I was working with Dan, the IT, today, so we'll be able to process both the beach passes as well as credit card
Do we have an
payments.
outlet? Do we have an outlet on the porch? Because
I don't believe so.
Okay, so we're gonna need to figure out a way to get an extension cord, because the power is still hooked up on that building.
Yep.
So it should be able to be fed out. If we need storage, I don't know if we had mentioned this to you or if it was just it had gone through my head and I never let it out of my head. We have a building or a snack shack, lack of a better word, over at Wallace Park, which is a mile from there. It's currently empty. It's got a refrigerator and it's got some shelving units in there. If we need a storage unit to store some of our, I don't know how they work it with their equipment, like we could always consider using that if we needed to.
Well,
I'm sure you guys
I
will
will-
figure it out. Liz may have some ideas too on how to.
yeah, and that's all the employees are all situated. We have 6 employees with a potential 7th employee.
Did we get
Liz,
another application in the last day?
we did, yes.
Okay. Peter
Yeah,
Hennessy.
so, wow, you know more about this than I do. So we have a slew of employees that or lifeguards that will be facilitating some swim lessons as well as being premium lifeguards, saving
Okay.
lives.
Did you see on the I think it's in the general folder, that there were lifeguard questions that I'm assuming, so Peter would be new to us. He's the only lifeguard that would be brand new to us this year if we were to hire him. So you probably need to meet with him and have a chat. If you go on that into the Google Drive, there is a document called lifeguard questions. Those were the questions that were used last year and the year prior to interview potential candidates. If you want to
Okay.
use that, it's in that drive.
I will consider
So
that.
will you, when you talk to him, can you just make sure that he understands what our hiring process is, which ends up, you or whoever meet with him from the town side, but then you make your recommendation to us. We vote on the recommendation and then it gets moved over to the select board for ratification. So if our next meeting isn't until the 15th of June,
Yeah.
I would be looking at getting it on the select board and I would give them a heads up for the 21st. So he may not be hired officially until the week that the beach opens. I just want to make sure
Yeah.
he knows that.
Okay, I'll keep him aware of that.
Before that, if we need to meet before that to approve, like if we need to make a recommendation prior to that, if it's something that you don't want to wait on, we can take 10 minutes one day. All we need is 3 of us to jump
Okay.
on and do that. So just
All
let
right,
us-
I'll keep you informed.
Okay, thank you. Anything else on the beach season that we need to, opening date. Do we have an opening date yet?
June 4th would have been the opening date that I had in mind. Until I receive word back from Board of Health, it's still tentative, but June 4th would be the opening date.
Do we have staff that can do June 4th?
This is where Liz Simone would definitely be the key component for all this. I believe she's a teacher. I don't, correct me if I'm wrong.
He runs a daycare.
Okay, so, like I said, June 4th was,
What's the last day of school?
It's not until, because it's not in.
Juneteenth is the last day of school, I believe.
So it must be the
It's a
20th.
Sunday.
I think it's like the 15th or something.
All right, then that tentative date might be out of the water. No
Hold
pun
on one
intended.
second.
Karen,
So,
refresh my memory. Have we ever opened full-time before school closed? I thought it was just weekends until school closed if we did anything.
yeah, Rob, we definitely can't open full-time on June 4th. We
No.
we- Weekends, but even at weekends, I'm a little bit concerned because we're already going into the season in the red on the
June 4th is graduation day.
Yeah, okay, then,
Early release, 180th day with 2 snow days is Thursday, June 16th. So I believe that is the last day of school. Yeah, last day of school is now June 16th,
okay.
which is a Thursday.
Yep, June 16th. Somebody else had confirmed it. So what we typically do, Rob, is we open the Sunday or the weekend after the last day of school. So I would be saying to you, we should probably be looking to open the weekend of the 18th and 19th.
Okay,
I
no,
think
I
that
agree.
because there are some kids that are still involved in school activities and all of our, I shouldn't say all of them because they're not anymore. 3 of them are now college age. I don't know how they grew up, but we do still have some high school kids. So I did want to just point something out to Jared Bowser had written in chat. I don't know if anybody had seen it. He had raised a concern about putting sand to level off that porta potty area. He says when it rains, it washes down the beach and into the lake. So he's a little bit concerned about keeping those portable potties stable, if that's what it's going to do. So just something to keep in mind as you're.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think geologically we can all agree that it's being washed out. It's whatever plan that Jim tells me what his concerns are, I'm trying to meet them with not a complete engineering nightmare or anything like that. I want to level them out and make sure everything is.
And if at the end of the day, Rob, if the only place we have to put them is the is the enclosed fenced area, then that's just, that'll have to be what it is. I mean, there's safety concerns that I have going there, but you know, I mean, it's gonna be what it's gonna be.
Yep.
You know, it's, we don't want to create more work than, or we don't want to, you know, cause a big stir of stuff if we don't have to, if that's not
Yeah,
where. we want them. So, and at the same time, the gate wouldn't be in vain, because the more I drive down there, I think having a second gate down there, I think that's a bonus.
I agree. I
You
agree.
know, so, all right, does anybody else have anything on the beach season?
Yeah, just Rob, I suggest that you hold your ground on the location that we've chosen. And
Yes,
just
I will.
note to Rafi that, you know, the board put a lot of consideration into its first choice for the location, taking into consideration protecting the public from harm if we put it anywhere else on the property, and do the best we can to protect the environment. If those things get tipped over, they're 30 feet from the water. The sand's going to absorb anything. I mean, a septic system, you only have to have it 5 inches out of the groundwater to be allowed to keep an old system. So
I agree. I will definitely maintain my posture on that position. I agree with safety as well as you. Having a child with special needs, I would not want anybody to have to leave a safe area to go use a facility like a porta potty.
Yeah. All right. So if you adjust the opening date,
Will do.
it would be great if you can adjust the, once you get the approval for the portables, if you can adjust the arrival date of those, so we're not paying for them for weeks that we are not going to be using them.
Rob, you can
I'll
also,
see what.
you can also
Okay.
save a lot of phone calls to the DPW if you get that posted up on websites and to Facebook as soon as possible, because people are already asking.
No, I agree. I will put that up. I will put that up immediately.
You
I
guys
believe.
motion that we're opening the town beach on the 18th of June.
So moved.
Oh, that was my motion. Okay, that's my motion. I made a motion. So that works. I make a motion to open the town beach on June 18th. Davis seconded that. Does anybody have any questions, comments, concerns? All right, let's roll call vote that. Anna?
Aye.
Dave? Chris?
Aye.
And an aye for myself. So June 18th it is.
June 18th.
Rob, just, you know, because all these random things just keep popping in my head. You'll need to talk to Liz Simeone and see how the buoys are gonna get put up this year. Last year, I think somebody on the town side might have done it. I'm
Yep.
not 100% sure. She will probably know that. In the past, I think there had been like some people that were involved with the beach that had helped do that. So you might just want to talk to her, so we're not doing that last second either.
I'll do that.
All right, next item, we're getting closer to the end. Next steps on Marshall Park. So Chris and I, after our last meeting, had a wrap-up call with WOLA. Nick Betts and Catherine were both there. And the takeaway from that is that the next step for us to do would actually be to get some wetland flagging done. I didn't know until yesterday, the day before, that we actually have a conservation agent that can do that. So I put a request in last night asking for Matt Marrow to consider flagging the wetlands over at Marshall Pond and Marshall Park prior to his retirement, which is in like just a couple of weeks. He got back to me today and said he could do that for us. So that is going to be flagged. I double checked my notes and I believe that's what WOLA had used for terminology, wetland flagging, not a wetland survey. Right? I'm somewhat right on that, right, Chris?
Sorry, muted. That's what I have written down here. I just went back and looked. It says wetland flagging. So I believe that was the terminology that they
Yeah.
used.
Hey, Karen,
yeah.
wetland surveying that's all available online. That's all a download from GIS site or something like that. So
Okay.
that's all available. And as I told you the other day, the flagging gives a surveyor or engineer a starting point for the wetlands. And then off of those flags, they figure out the 30-foot no touch and the no build zones and so on and so forth when they're
Gotcha.
doing schematic design.
Gotcha. So that'll be the next step. It doesn't appear we need to figure out funding for that because as an employee of the town, that will be, he can take care of that. The next piece of that is that, or the next question that we're going to need to figure out is if we're doing this in phases, what phases we want to start with. And we need to figure out funding, whether that's grants, which I'm hoping a good portion is. I know a couple of, I think everybody got it. Somebody forwarded some grants information yesterday and Dave forwarded some this morning. Am I
I
right on
sent
that?
an email.
Oh, that's
from
right, Chris did.
I got a Fitchburg post that they received some funding for a park over there, and
Was that from their state rep?
from the state rep may have been mentioned in the. Trying to remember if he was mentioned in the Facebook. He secured some funding. The state rep secured some funding that went towards the park, but then there was mention in there of the grants that they had received, and it came from the trash. It's the Republic Service. It's like a trash. I think Republic Service. I think it's a trash company.
Is it what?
I think Republic Services is like a waste management company.
Yeah, a lot of those big corporations, they offer grants for these types of projects.
And Catherine did send over, it's
Yeah,
my,
they're a trash service.
yeah, Catherine sent over some grant information or things, places we could check out. I will search for that message now.
They
and
gave the
share
money, Republic Services gave the money to New View Communities, which is a community-based organization in Fitchburg. It's a nonprofit organization dedicated to creating strong and healthy neighborhoods where residents choose to live, work, and invest. So it's a community. It's a New View is a community development organization corporation serving 240,000 residents in north central Massachusetts, from Harvard to Athol. So just something to maybe keep on our radar.
Yeah, and I just forwarded you the funding sources that Catherine had sent back at the very end of April. So we have that there. I have never had to research a grant or write a grant, or I don't even know where to begin on some of this. I think it would be, I'd say, worthy of a conversation with town manager to figure out how we're going to deal with the funding of this, but I know she's going to push it back on us and say, well, look at grants. Well, that.
You know, the town has money. I mean, they just didn't get approved for they have $200,000 extra for funding. They didn't get approved in the town meeting. I think I almost feel like, you know, I know we can have conversations with town manager and select board, capital planning, but I almost feel like I would like to, my thinking was, let's have a meeting between select board and parks and town manager to present the findings of the, you know, what WOLA did and what our goals are. Like, we do a presentation for them, because ultimately they decide how some fundings are going to be applied. There are a lot of funds that come to town. They don't necessarily come through town meeting. And I think we only going to be able to move this forward if we have the executive body of the town, you know, advocating for this park. I mean, what we can do with grants and what we can do with specific funding here and there is going to be very limited to the level of funding that we actually need to complete this project. I mean, there's a big ARPA funding. I don't know how much money the town got, but I know it has not spent everything.
No, I don't think they've decided where it's gonna be spent yet.
Right, so my suggestion is to have a meeting, an official meeting between the two boards. And of course, the town manager will be there, where we can present them what we found, what the work that was done, what are our goals. And ask them for their support and how can some of the fundings available in town can be used. And we're willing to write up for grants, but this level of funding will not be coming from grants.
No, I don't think it's gonna all be able to come from grants, because even if I think back to the Northfield property, the old Saliba property, that was purchased with a grant, and it was 50% of it or something was covered. It wasn't 100%.
Yep, Karen, Parkland maximum is 400,000. That's what that was funded by.
The park.
Parkland grant. That's what I sent to you today.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw that.
And
I just
that
couldn't
application
remember what it
process is only open until mid-July. So
Yep.
that's why I said we need to jump on this.
Yeah.
Coincidentally, the skate park group was actually given a 3-year-long membership to a website called Grant Station.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
So they're trying to figure out how to leverage that. But it's looking at that website. It's where they offer nonprofit organizations, educational institutions, and government agencies the opportunity to identify potential funding sources for their programs or projects, as well as resources to mentor these organizations through the grant seeking process. So that was given to the skate park through the Tony, I think Anthony said it was through the Tony Hawk Foundation.
and that's one of the, I don't have access to that. I'm sure I could sit with Anthony one day and try to, and look at it with him. But if you remember back at that meeting, Chris, one of the comments that she made was, there's different parts of the park that we could look for funding on. For example, the
Yeah, we got a chuckle on the
basketball
AARP Foundation grant for pickleball. Like, it just wouldn't be anything that we would necessarily think about per se.
Right,
but
right. She was like, look at those unique features that you're putting within the park, and, go after some of those companies that might be offering grant opportunities for a pickleball court, a basketball court, a walking track, whatever it is that is incorporated. So, but how do we want to do this in terms of figuring out phases and where we want to start on the phases? Do we, I didn't, I guess, come prepared enough tonight to say, I can pull up a graphic of what they had recommended the phases to be. Do we want to prioritize those phases? I don't know how to do it. I was thinking about it earlier today, and sometimes I feel like, at least for me, it comes down to funding that's available. Like, if we only had X amount of money, then I'd want to start with this phase. But if we had X amount of money, I might want to start with.
I think it's definitely a timing and what's available sort of scenario. So I think what's going to be important is minimal impact to baseball and softball and so forth, and the community that we're serving in that park, if we can minimize that impact. So that may mean the phase of the pickleball court, basketball court, and parking lot goes in while baseball season's going on and softball season are going on, and then we that season ends and we start working on that, or if we're starting in the fall, then we're trying to get baseball and softball squared away, instead of worrying about parking and pickleball and basketball.
Yeah.
Karen, I'd like to suggest that you forward that list of phased projects that was provided to us by WOLA, and that all the members do their own prioritization.
Sure.
and
You
take
should,
notes
I will
of
forward it
all that,
again, but you should have it.
And then we come back to the
Yeah.
next. Because there's a lot of considerations, as you just said, dollar amounts, overlap areas of construction. You can't do one before you do the other, or vice versa. So you've got to take all that into consideration. If you do the parking first, you've got to remember you're going to seal off the fields from 2A.
Right.
So that's going to have to be done as much off season as possible. And I would think if we could come up with the funding, we try to coordinate that with the skate park construction. So all that disruption on that end of the park happens more or less together.
Yep, I will, we received we received the email directly from I received it from Catherine, and I'm almost positive I forwarded it to everybody the night of the last meeting that she was with us that showed those phases, but I will get it pulled up again, and I'll actually see if I can pull their recommended phases out of that. Did I forward you guys the email that we got from them with the price adjustment?
Did you ever get a breakdown as to where that price adjustment? That was kind of my thought, is that we never got where that total number adjustment fit into the phases and the projects.
I never seen any
No, you
price
did. It's in
adjustment.
the same email. I don't know if there was an adjustment though. I don't know if I saw the adjustment, but in the same email that you sent Karen with the final presentation, there's a April 15, 2022 cost estimate for the Marshall Park study, and it does break down.
But what's the total amount, Chris? Because they reduced it.
They did reduce it. I'm trying to look it up now.
Scrolling. A and B was 3.4.
I'm not losing my mind. She did send a price adjustment. Okay, so this is what it says. And I'm gonna forward it. I think I already did, but I'm gonna forward it again. It says, please find a copy of the presentation from Wednesday evening, as well as the cost estimate. There have been some adjustments with the cost estimate and phasing, which has resulted in a reduction of the cost to $5 million for the main body of Marshall Park and $135,000 for the woodland pathway and viewing platforms.
That's the one I'm looking at, Karen. That's the one that
Okay.
the
So I
the
think-
detail breakdown.
I think I think when she sent this presentation, I think she updated it within there, correct, Chris?
Oh, there's a lot of numbers here. I don't see anything that says 5 million. I get two items, items A 1 to 6, 2.2. Items B.
I've got it broken down in 4 different ways, so it's kind of difficult to find the.
B 1 through 7 is 1.2. A and B together is 3.4. Phase 2 stonework 97. There's a separate phase 2 stonework 96 grand. Maybe it's just the total 4,977,144.
So yeah, I think she just rounded it up.
So A and B together when they break that down. So A is general site work, earthwork, pedestrian vehicular pavement, seating, plantings, utilities. That's 2.2. And then B is playing courts, fields, and amenities. So new baseball, new softball, new pickleball, prefab restroom and concessions, picnic area, play area, and dog park. That's 1.2. So the total of A and B is 3.4. General requirements for the office, another 5%. Bonds and insurance at 2.5%, profit 3%, design estimating contingency 20%, escalation to midpoint using 1.5 years at 10%, and that's what get it all the way up to 5 million. And then the stonework and pathways on the The pond is 134.
Okay.
All right, so I re-forwarded that. I can look to see if I have, I'll go through that document again that I just forwarded and make sure that it has some of the phases that they recommended, or they sort of broke it out as it could be phased this way if you wanted it to be phased this way. I'll make sure that we all have that. If we could, you know, prioritize those phases ourselves before our next meeting, so we're not trying to do it while we're in a meeting, that would be great, and then we can sort of compare notes.
The phases are on in the presentation that they
Okay,
sent on page 14.
what would we do without
Gotta-
you?
We need to keep in mind too, that we're nowhere near ready to put a shovel in the ground for this project.
No.
We still have surveying that's got to be done, schematic design for each of the phases or the entire project at once. We actually have some money still available that can be used for schematic design. If you lose me in a second, it's because my battery went dead before I could plug in. And I've already had a discussion with town manager that we could write up, or she could write up an extension of scope of work for WOLA to actually do the schematic design for, say, the park down at Marshall Pond. There might be enough money left from the original appropriation to do that. And it's
Yep.
still engineering work, so that money can be used for that. The things that are going to hold it up are, well, we got the flagging out of the way. That'll be done in the next 2 weeks. The surveying can't be done until after July 1. And I'm still concerned that that process should be moving forward so that we're ready to select an engineering company on July 1 so that we can make that happen fairly quickly.
So,
Get a note right now.
how far can Walla take this design work, Dave?
That was one of the questions I had hoped was going to be asked in that final meeting, as to how much would the balance of the appropriation, how far would that take us on a schematic design for, say, the small park at Marshall Pond? Because
They were going to give us some answers on that, right, Karen? Have we seen it? We haven't seen that
I
from
haven't
them
seen
yet.
anything.
Okay,
I
but that was
I'll
that
follow
was
up.
the discussion we had with them, Dave, was can you
Yep.
give us plan, give us an idea of what you could do with what is left of the budget that we had, like what will that get us?
Right. And ultimately, because of the survey, we're not going to be able to do anything anyway, design-wise or otherwise, until after July 1, and probably after August 1 or
Oh.
further.
Oh, I see. But won't the money then, Dave, and maybe you know this more than I know. Well, I think you definitely know more than I. But since this money was appropriated
It's,
in the last town meeting, won't sort of expire in this town meeting or no?
no,
Is
and the
budget-
capital money rolls over
Okay. That
unless
was my question.
reappropriated by town meeting.
Okay, that was the question. Okay.
Sorry, I'm sending an email to Julie Belleville right now.
In fact, just a little note, at this past town meeting, we reappropriated $20,000 roughly from the way back in, what was it, Karen, 2016, 17, from the some appropriation that was given to parks for the track behind the school. And that was just reappropriated towards the capital plan, which pretty much is paying for the survey for Marshall Park.
Say that again, Dave. It wasn't the track behind the school, was it? I thought it
Yeah,
was. I thought it was the parking lot money. The money.
No, that was moved at an earlier town meeting. That was
Okay.
moved last year or the year before.
Okay. All right, I'm sending this off to Julie. Hopefully she gets back to me.
The other real quick comment, and then I'm done talking about Marshall pretty much for the night. And that is that the dollar amount for that park, once we get the schematic design, the dollar amount to build that with some adjustments and help from DPW paving and things like that, we could actually do that within our budget.
Possible.
Yeah, hopefully we'll get better breakdown of our numbers.
And that's not tied to any other major improvements in the park. It's kind of a standalone piece.
Yep. Okay.
Okay, I'm done with
All right. Anybody else have anything on Marshall? Otherwise, I'll just forward a whole bunch of stuff and we can take it up at
Like you haven't been doing that all night?
I have been forwarding you stuff all night.
I know.
Yeah, I opened up my email. Oh, there's 3 new ones.
All for me. I'm just sitting here. You know, I am often well-intentioned and I'll say to somebody, like if I'm talking to somebody, one of you guys on the phone, like, yeah, Dave, I'll forward that to you. And then I have every intention of going immediately down to my computer to forward it to you. But then what happens is like you go from one room to the other, and as you're walking by, you're like, oh, there's a toy. So then you take the toy and you put it in the toy box and you're like, oh, that needs to be dusted. And then this, and then this, and then you walk into the kitchen forgetting what you're there for. And you're like, it's time for a snack. And you don't go back to your computer. So I don't know if it's just like an ADD brain going on or old age or what it is, but
I think that's called squirrel. Squirrel.
Squirrel. I have every intention. So if I ever promise you guys something and I don't come through, please like don't feel bad about like, hey Karen, you said you'd send this and you didn't. All right. So
I want to
Yeah.
go back to my suggestion, which was heard
Yep.
very politely
Yep.
by everyone. I do think that ultimately, I think we're going to keep doing what we need to do to,
is Nathan behind you?
no, he was sitting on the couch.
He walked away. Yes.
But I think, you know, we will, like, there is money available to town. And I think, you know, engaging the town manager and the select board, they are the ones that hold the wallet on a lot of this money that doesn't even make it to town meeting. I think it'd be a wise thing to engage them.
Agreed.
So what's the plan on that?
So
You're gonna comment for me.
that's
What
fine.
did you say, Dave?
He said
I
he's going
said,
to.
I will comment on that when Karen's done.
Dave, do you know what the ARPA timeline is for the town?
Honestly, no. I
Okay.
think the money has to be spent in 2024. But I haven't followed that real close because
Okay.
it hasn't been, you know, out in the open very much yet.
Okay. All right. What's your comment, Dave?
Okay, my comment is that I agree with Anna in regards to bringing the results of our study of Marshall Park to the Board of Selectmen and anybody else that wants to listen. I disagree with adding a request for appropriation of taxpayers' money until we've done some vetting of grant availabilities. We have spent more than the last year telling the taxpayers that we are going to do our very best to do this project outside of the tax dollars in this town. And if we go right to the town Board of Selectmen and say, hey, you got money sitting around in the budget or free cash and we'd like a piece of that, that's not the way to start this.
I think we need to jump on the ARPA stuff though, Dave. I do.
Yeah,
think
no, I agree. But I'm
Right.
saying stay out of the local tax approach.
Oh, yeah.
For the time being.
I didn't, well, first of all, let's just say any money available to fund this, it is taxpayer money, period. It might
Yeah,
have
no
gone
matter
through
where
a
it
few
comes from. You're right.
iterations of government and taxation, but it is taxation money. Let's just, let's just say that. But yes, I think I wasn't at all suggesting to ask for creating debt for the town, but I know that it's funds available. And I've been saying that there's funds available through ARPA money and there are state monies that's coming in. There is a lot of appropriation that can happen through the state. The state has a lot of money. I mean, there is a reason that every town in Massachusetts has a pavement project. All of a sudden, literally, there's not a town that I drive by that is not a pavement project. The state has tons of money. And as the executive board, you know, the executive body of town, the select board and the town manager, they are in communication with our elected officials in the state. They can say, hey, send us $25,000 to help us with our little pocket park down Marshall. So engaging them and ask them to be our advocates and think about us as they look to appropriate some of the ARPA money that does not have to go through town meeting. I think the sooner that we do, the better it is.
Well, I think that it's,
Also, just a reminder, our delegation went through the voting process to be elected to their positions, and part of their promise during that campaigning was that as soon as we had some hard numbers for Marshall Park, make sure we put them in the loop for earmarks and so on and so forth. So I want to call their attention to, okay, we're here now. What can you do for us?
Right. And when did they do that?
Huh?
When did they do that?
The
they've
last
been
two
doing it
election
for years.
cycles.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't remember, like, you might have a talk or a promise, like an event in mind that I'm not aware of.
Yeah, well, I've been advocating through them for to them directly for quite a long time. And again, Anna, those types of things to be requested by the town, we need to have the executive branch on board with us, because basically they hold the reins to asking for that stuff.
Right. I mean, yeah, and that is exactly my point. So I think
Right.
the sooner that we can have a joint meeting with them and tell all the wonderful, and honestly, like, I think we should kind of put on when we have that meeting, we need to have some of the groups that we would like to, that will benefit from this, like have the baseball group come, have, you know, skate park come, have the teen center come, have the senior center come, because that will show the strength of the design, the conceptual design that we created, which we took a lot of effort and time into. This is like, I don't think there was a single request that was put forth in any of the meetings, emails, exchange, or anything that was not carefully taken into consideration. And quite honestly, that we weren't able to somewhat accommodate, you know, so.
Well, I'll work on it. I will, I'll make sure that you all have I think I just forwarded it, so you should all have the different phases. We have the numbers. I will reach out and have a conversation with town manager and the chair of the select board. I don't think we're quite ready to set up an exact meeting date right now, because I think we need to go through some of the phasing ourselves, so we have an understanding of what it's going to look like from our end, instead of saying, oh, we can phase it and these are some of our options. I think we need to sort of fine tune that. But yeah, we'll absolutely get that done. And I think keeping the select board and finance committee in loop anyway is going to be beneficial in the long run.
Is the financial in the financial commission committee or whatever in the loop?
Well,
I mean, he's your husband.
I mean, Dave here, you got my husband, and yeah, so I mean, they have some of it, but you know what, how much of it gets translated back, and you know, I mean, it's getting other people's opinions on it as well.
And
So-
transparency, be in front
Yeah,
of, the more people we
absolutely.
can be in front of, the better off we are. And I think, Dave, you're right,
So-
keeping in front of state
so
reps
Karen, when
and
you-
all that kind of deal too,
Yeah,
every day we're seeing money appropriated. You know, there's another one this afternoon. There's 50 grand going to Crocker Field restoration in Pittsburgh for, you know, for their athletic field. So I mean, I think we're
and that's the money that I think we should jump into it, because there's a lot of money going out of the state right now. And I have not seen that much coming to Lunenburg. There's been some, but not that much. But Karen, whenever you get an idea of time, let me know. I will take the lead on reaching out to all the organizations that I think will appreciate some of the things that we're trying to do there, and invite them to the meeting. Because I think I think if the select board see how, how much work we took, not the work that we did, but seeing that these organizations are behind this project, I think that would be meaningful.
Agree. All right, so I will get some movement on that. McNally Field / Snack Shack. Let's do with the Snack Shack. So as I'm sure some of you are aware, there was some structural concerns raised about the Snack Shack at McNally, specifically the second story. There's some rotting structural issues with that building. Right now, it's not being used because of those issues. I found out a couple of weeks ago that the second floor of that Snack Shack has actually, that's where the announcing booth is, actually hasn't been used for a couple of years because of concerns. But I obviously, and I don't think any of us were aware that that was happening. So it just, reinforces the fact that we need to be taking care of our facilities better, and our facilities people need to be doing more often, doing inspections. So when I was talking to town manager about this, she asked what the history was of that building. I wasn't sure. So I'm actually going to read a message that I had received from Kathleen McNally. Do you know how to say her last name? Is it Petrullo, Dave?
I'm not sure.
So
I
it's
have to see it, but that's probably correct.
it's the sister of the namesake of that building. So that field rather. So I went back to her and I asked specifically what the history of that building was. The question from town manager was this a building that was donated to us? Was it built by, the McNally group, or was it something built by the town? So what Kathleen said was that it was built by the town, that they, meaning the McNally group, have painted it several times, added shelves, replaced the roof and stairs, put fencing around the grill area, supplied a grill and fridge for Snack Shack, replaced the flag yearly. They've installed a scoreboard, purchased 2 sets of aluminum bleachers. They've gotten playground equipment, and they've maintained the bushes, flowers. They put a light on the shack, which I guess the town shut off. And they've done some fertilizing. They've maintained the sprinklers, which are now not in use. They've done spring and fall cleanup. They've removed excess trash from tournaments. When the fields needed to be mowed, they were taking care of the mowing. And they've been doing this since 1984, when her brother passed. So that building was built by the town. I'm assuming I think it looks like it was done in 2 phases. Looked like the bottom room was done, and then the second room was done, and the McNallys have stepped up and filled the void of things that needed to get done. And I mean, that field, like when you go through there, it's generally in very good condition, like the upkeep of it with the shrubs have always been trimmed and whatnot. So as a commission, and we don't need to decide this tonight, I just wanted to throw this information out there on the Snack Shack. We're going to need to decide whether or not we want to try to save this building, whether we want to demolition this building, and if we demolition it, do we want to build a new one? So those are things that our commission is going to need to decide. And I did forward that information on to town manager, the history of that building and that park. I do still think, I mentioned this the last meeting, I think it would be worth of having the McNally group. I call them McNally group. I don't know what else to call them. Kathleen, as well as Peter Lincoln, join us one night to sort of get a really good understanding of the money that they've put into this field, the things that they do above and beyond what we know that they do, just in terms of, upkeep and whatnot, and try to figure out a way to all work together so that we're not duplicating services. Or, they fertilize. They actually asked for permission to fertilize this year. I had forwarded on, but unfortunately it was after Rob had left. So without a DPW director here, it's one of those, I think it just needs to wait until the new guy starts. So I didn't give obviously permission for the fertilizing to be done, but it's something that they would be willing to do if it needed to get done. You know, they seem to be on top of everything. So that's my spiel on the snack shack. I did put, I'm gonna share.
Looks like there's some space in there for a T-ball field.
Don't get so excited yet. Let me pull it up.
Oh,
Sorry.
it's a long meeting already, Chris, please.
I'm just merely pointing out there's land.
Okay,
So-
and I was gonna start the dialogue anyway, so.
Yeah, he was gonna start it. So,
and it goes beyond that too, so.
yeah, so, you know, I think that McNally's one of those locations that unless you, are looking at a map of it, you don't realize what we actually own for property because you think that it stops at the, you know, just behind the dugout. That's obviously not the case, as you saw in the documents that I forwarded yesterday, and I will screen share that right now. Where did it go? So this is the general overhead of McNally. Oh, where did it go?
Oh, there we go. Tell us about your Facebook Live, Karen.
Does it show my Facebook too when it pulls it up?
You did
No, it
have
did
your Facebook.
just for a
Live.
second.
Yeah, and I don't know what it was doing. Anyway, so this isn't a great picture. Let me put a different picture up.
The aerial is a better
Yep.
one.
Can you see that one?
Yep.
Okay,
Can you
so,
enlarge it?
yep.
Plus up to the right. Oh, plus down there, yeah. There
Yeah.
you go. Now you're good.
There it
Oh.
goes. Okay. So you can see that we go all the way back, and it's another weird shaped property. Wallace Park is the exact same way. It's weird. We all of a sudden have like this jut out of property that goes in between two houses. It's odd the way it was done. So we have the same thing here. So we have land behind the home plate that wraps around, but down on number 22 on the bottom of your screen, that is property that is owned by the Lunenburg Water Department. That building and property is not being used right now because the water department relocated to Mass Ave. So Dave, do you have comments on this?
Yeah, most definitely. We're in the very infant stages of looking into this, and I didn't want to go too far into it without at least a yeah, okay, pursue it type of answer from this commission. There is a possibility. I've had a conversation with one or two people familiar with this property, and there is a possibility that we could negotiate either a long-term agreement of use of this property or possibly take it over. I don't have the exact history, but that property was actually deeded to the water district from the town, I believe, for $1. So it was originally town property, transferred to the ownership of the water district, and now it sits vacant. Couple of notes. Leisure Ave has a sewer main down the full length of it. Not that it would affect us if we do it on town land, but the water district actually paid a betterment on their property, but never hooked into the sewer. They paid the full amount, but never hooked in. Another interesting note, if you look at the 1.72 acres with the number 54 above it across Railroad Avenue, I believe that's called, that was gifted to the water district from the developers of the apartment complex next door. So the water department encompasses that 1.72 acres across the way. That is not wetlands, it's treed and scrubby and fairly level. And then you have the open area where the actual water district building was. There's a couple offices in there. I've not been in there for a very, very long time, so I don't know really what condition the building's in. And then just to what I would say the right of it, you can see there's a little building there. That's actually, I don't think it's in use now, but it's historic in that that was the original metering building for the water system for the district.
You talking
They've
about
kept that
21,
up.
Dave? You talking
What's
about
that?
little, are you talking about box 21 there?
22. Yeah, right
Oh,
there.
oh, oh, you're back. Okay, I was going off of 54 and swinging.
Oh, yeah, no, sorry, no.
Okay, you're back on 20.
with-
Okay.
Yeah, down where the 22 is. They have kept that little building immaculate, at least on the outside. It's well kept, well shingled, so on and so forth. So talk about a geocache location. That's got some history behind it. So, you know, I'm pretty sure whoever hangs onto that property would never touch that. But there is potential to expand our acreage there. In a perfect world, we could actually have a Parks Commission, Parks Department building with capability of programming and our own office in that building. I mean, these are dreams, but it could happen. So I'm just throwing it out
Looks
to you.
like multi-purpose field space.
Yeah, you know, honestly, when I first saw that 1.7 acres across the road there, I thought, let's pull the dog park out of Marshall and put a really nice one over there in Whalen. I'm not sure that that's the best use of 1 3/4 acres, but that was kind of the first thing that popped into my head. But you're right. I mean, that could be used for a lot of different things. I could see volleyball courts there. There's a lot of things you could do.
It's been eye-opening this spring, just still dealing with soccer. There's been 3 weeks this spring that there are 0 home games for soccer in Lunenburg this year, this
Say
spring.
that again?
There are 3 weeks this spring where there are 0 home games for LISA this spring.
Yeah, so one of them is
Town
weekend.
meeting,
Yep,
graduation.
Yep.
And there was a track meet this past weekend. The district relays were here. So the district thing won't be every year. I'm on the road for 4. I mean, Callum's team, and they're on the road for 4. The second half of the season, we're not in town at all. We have 0. We've had 2 games in town all season. There's no lacrosse, and I mean, you can rope lacrosse in when you talk multi-purpose fields and so forth. I mean, there's no lacrosse in town. Public lacrosse is
Right.
high school, obviously, but
Would 1 3/4 be enough? It's just shy of that.
yeah, I think you could put some fields there for sure. I mean, 3. You know, you look at what's the size of the two fields at the high school. They're inside the fence. I don't know what kind of acreage that is.
The only thing I think I do, Dave, I do think it's enough. My only concern is parking. And that
Right,
was like,
right.
when Dave first threw out this idea, you know, I said to him, if we were to try to put a t-ball field on our own property, if we felt as a commission that we needed to move the t-ball field, and keep, like, put a new field in, if we were to move it here, on our own property, we don't have enough parking to sustain that, because this lot, which is right here, it's full with just games at McNally. You added a t-ball game, and it's busier. There's just not enough parking. So I don't know what we could sustain for parking over there with a field, with a multi-purpose field on.
I think ultimately an expansion at McNally would have to be in coordination with use of the water district property, whether we long-term leased it very cheaply or transferred ownership or whatever. I don't disagree with you, Karen. The parking would just be exasperated more because there isn't, I don't know, I can't read the number there, but that jut out to Lejeune Ave, I think, is 40 or 50 feet wide. And when the two residents in those houses realize, if they don't know already, that the town owns that land and we cut a driveway through there, we're not, they're not going to be friendly neighbors, I don't think. So I agree. I think any movement forward over there and to expand that way would have to include the water department.
Who's the chair of the water department right now? Do we know?
I'm not sure, no. It was
Hirsch?
suggested to me that we put a request through the district commissioner, and he would take it to the board. I think honestly, we take it to him and request a joint meeting or a meeting with them to kind of just flesh out what their thinking options could be and what we're thinking options could be, and see if there's a conversation that we can move forward with. If they say
Mhm.
absolutely no, then we're done.
Yeah, I think that I think having some discussions, even just fact-finding discussions with them would be beneficial, especially if they're not using that property. I just, I obviously don't know what the inside of that building looks like, but if it's got some potential to do something for a rec department, to have some space, to dedicated space, I think that would be a worthwhile discussion. So, yeah. Does
And pretty
anybody-
much that entire lot around the building is open and could be configured, through engineering for parking. And I think you can get a pretty good number of cars there. The other thing is for a major improvement for that whole complex would be the ability to tie into the sewer line and provide bathroom facilities over there. And I checked with the sewer commission today, the sewer office, and there would be, and I need to verify this one more time, maybe through the commission itself, but Barb usually knows what she's talking about. She's been at it for a long time. If we do it on town property, there would be no connection fees and so on and so forth. There may be some minimal fees, but it would basically be the construction to hook in.
Does anybody have an issue if we start having some discussions with Water District on potentially seeing what they may be interested in terms of that building and that property?
I think it definitely makes sense to ask the questions before we kind of dream
Yeah.
too much kind of deal. Because like Dave said, they might say, no, we have like, no. Okay, well then we're.
And that's fine. I mean,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I know Dave was, didn't want to throw everything out there without talking to the Water District first. And I agree with that. But at the same time, I'm sort of like, I don't want to go to the Water District without having, a meeting of the minds of the commission either.
I
I'd
can
be
see some
interested to
good potential
see-
there for sure.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see what they'd be willing, if anything, to, work with us on that. To me, like, I sort of look at that similar to what the teen center is. The town owns that teen center building. It's leased or rented or whatever you want to call it to the teen center for like $1 a year. That's the town does do the upkeep of it. And I'm sure that the Water District might not want to do upkeep of a building they're not using, but I think it's worth having a conversation with them.
Yeah.
So.
Just not to open a can of worms, but I just will mention that I personally, and I don't know, Karen's got a little bit different take on this. I personally have a problem with Parks Department spending money down at Fitzgerald because I don't know if the rest of the commissioners know, that is not under care and custody of the Parks
Right.
Commission.
Yeah, I don't even know if I necessarily have a different view than you, Dave. I just don't want to, we have user groups down there using it, and I certainly wouldn't want to
Neglect it.
do something that would jeopardize their programs and, so no, but I do agree with you. And honestly, it's a comment that I know one of our previous DPW director said, if we don't own it, why are we putting money towards it? It's been under the park, I shouldn't say been under, it's been cared for and maintained by the Parks Commission for decades. I don't know how it got by so long with no questions asked, but it is. So, all right, we'll see
What
if
are
we-
the steps with that we need to, I mean, are there steps we should be taking?
at
I was
Fitzgerald?
just, I was just about to make a comment. If I have your okay, I will call the water district office and find out how we get on their agenda.
Sure.
I think that's the first step.
Cool.
that works.
Thanks, Dave.
Chris, were you asking about Fitzgerald?
Yeah, just,
Oh.
I
So
mean, what,
it's-
like, and I know that's a bigger picture, but, look, I mean, having
The
that
thing
come
about
up, it
Fitzgerald,
obviously needs to be addressed.
the thing about Fitzgerald is it's under Conservation Commission. And because it's under Conservation Commission and it's classified as conservation land, there's a state legislature piece of it. So to, it's something that we could certainly approach them if we wanted to. They're aware of it. I know that from years back. We could certainly approach them with it and make a case that it's been, and we can look back on pictures. It's truly been decades that this has been a baseball field. I don't know if you all know how to use the Lunenburg GAS page, but you can put layers of pictures so you can see what it looked like, say, back in like the 70s or whatever it is. And if I go back to their earliest picture of that location, it's been decades and it's been there. I don't know how easy of a process it is, though. I think it would definitely require a town meeting vote. And then it would have to go in front of the state for approval. I don't know how quick they would be to want to hand it over. They tend to like their they don't want to give up properties. It's a case we could make if we wanted to.
Well, I mean,
down the
it's
road.
not that they don't, like, I'm not one of them, but, property that's under conservation, there's very little that other people can do to touch it. So it's like, I mean, there are a few categories of land ownership that very much protects open land one way or the other, and that's one of them. So
Yep.
I think it falls more into that category, which I appreciate. So
Oh, I don't blame anybody on the conservation.
I mean, I don't think we should try to invest on building more there. Perhaps we could, if it's just a, T-ball field, that there's very little intervention with land. And
That's why I sort of want to look at numbers. And I mentioned this to Dave last night too, when he had asked me to grab some pictures and put them in the drive. And, I'm curious to see what their numbers are as we're moving past COVID times and moving back into, a norm, a different norm, but we're going back towards the norm to see what their numbers are. Again, I think that, do we need a T-ball field? Yes, because we have T-ball players and we have a group that puts on a T-ball program. But I want to make sure that, we're looking at their numbers and we're not overbuilding or, putting in too many fields. And so.
I mean, I hear you, I don't disagree, but like, do we have any redundant fields? Like I don't think we have two.
I guess, what are you calling redundant? Because.
Well, do we have two of the same type of field? We have one major field.
So this is the stuff that I've learned over the past 6 months. McNally Field can be used for minors or majors. Powell Field can be used for minors or majors. There is a difference in the distance from home plate to the fence line. At McNally, it's shorter. And when you read the Little League regulations on that, it's at the discretion of the local board what they want those minimums to be. So do we have redundancy? Yes, we have, as far as I'm concerned, yes, because we can use those two. We don't have redundancy in the instructional level field. and the softball field over at Fitzgerald. Those are the only two. T-ball, the majority of other towns don't have a dedicated fenced in field. They'll utilize their, say their instructional baseball field. So I guess it depends on how you look at it and what your wants and are versus needs. Because I think the 90-foot diamonds, the softball field, and Powell, I think those are the, there are no duplicates of at least the softball field and the 90-foot diamonds.
Right.
I say that there's a duplicate of McNally and Powell. And then Fitzgerald doesn't have a lot of duplicates, but then the question is, how can you use, what do other towns do? What do they do for their fields, and how do they combine usage? And it's hard to look, like I'm looking at registration numbers for 2020 and 2021, and clearly those weren't, 2020 was definitely not a normal year.
I don't think 2021 were either.
2021, it was starting to build back up. I mean, they had 213 players. And if you compare that to say 2015, they had 206. So the numbers are building back up. I don't know. So that's, hopefully Rob can get some numbers from Little League in terms of, their
I think the project for Marshall Park, I think the way the conceptual design came out, I think it's wonderful. I think overall we have a shortage of fields in town, and I think if we are going to do any new build, I think we should, there's enough land available to us in town that we don't need to dismantle, take it down something that's working for the sake of something else. Like, I think we need more rectangle. I do think, I remember Susanna Jewell when she was here, she said, passive recreation, which I'm all for it. But the reality is we do have a shortage of rectangular fields and just grass fields. But we have the land for it elsewhere. So I know if any energy we want to put towards something, I would say let's put towards building something else. Like, I'd love to have, big expansion of grass that we can get 3 or 4 fields out of it that serve 2 or 3 different other organizations.
Well, the next topic item.
Oh, let's go to that.
That's not what I was put it on that's not why it's on the agenda. So the
Nice
last
segue. Nice segue.
The last agenda.
I'll sign you up, Karen, so just
Well, that's not even what I was going to talk about, but the last item is Northfield Park. Because a comment was made at town meeting, I did want to make sure that this stuff was brought to the attention of the commission. So at town meeting, there was an article that had come up about expending some money to clear up a debris field that was over on the old Woodruff property, which is more on my side of town, or the center of town, whatever you want to call it.
that's my side of town. So is
Whatever it
Dave's.
is. It's not on the Northfield side. It's on the opposite side of Northfield. And during that article, a gentleman had stood up and was saying that he had walked the property, the Table Rock property under the Conservation Commission, and found another debris field. And he is the same one that had reported the first debris field. So of course that got the chair of the Conservation Commission. He, contacted this gentleman, and the debris field is actually not on the Table Rock side. It's on the Parks Commission side. So there was some quick conversations that went back and forth from town manager and the select board, and or it went to them, but it was myself and Brandon Kibbe and Bob Pease that had chimed in. When that piece of property was bought, before we acquired it, there was actually a site assessment done, and there was some debris that was noted there. I don't remember what it was or how big of an area it is, so I do plan on in the coming weeks going over and taking a walk to see if I can see where it is. I do have an idea based on what this person told Bob Pease where it is. I'm gonna go and look. At the time that the site assessment was done, it was noted that it was not, the debris was nowhere near like a body of water. It was stuff that could be removed over time as needed. So I'm hoping that's the case here, that it's not the same sort of situation as the Woodruff property. I believe it's all old, dating, 60, 70 years ago. But I will walk that property. But where it was mentioned during town meeting, I did want to make sure that the commission was aware of it. And in the process of looking at this and looking at the GIS and looking at the overlays and whatnot, I actually realized that our portion of that property, Northfield Park, that's what it's been named. I don't know who named it. We didn't have a say in it, but it's called Northfield Park. That is listed under the Conservation Commission. So I had a conversation with the assessor's office last week, and then I have some emails out today looking for the actual deed, that I can't find it online. I know where to find it. I'm just not finding what I'm looking for. So I have an email out looking for more information, and we've got to get that sorted out. It may come down to me or whoever's chair bringing it back to the commission to we may have to have a joint meeting with conservation to figure out how to deal with this, and asking town council to basically rewrite the deeds into 2 deeds instead of 1. Right now it's 1 deed that says the north side is owned by, the south side is owned by, but clearly that was confusing, and now it looks like it's all owned by conservation, and that's not the case. So that's the update there, but that piece of property is ours. At some point we can develop it. If you want 3 fields there, all the power to you, if that's what gets designed. But that large piece of property does fall under us.
Karen, there is another piece of property in town that you could put 6 fields on.
Shh.
You know where it is, right?
It's the end of the meeting. It's 9:51.
You know what I'm talking about, correct?
I do.
Where, Dave?
Pleasant.
Off of Youngs Road,
The
town-owned land.
Yep, the capped landfill is over there.
Former DPW director has a design somewhere, I'm sure, in his archives.
Yep.
And I believe it was a whole soccer complex.
It is a nice piece of property. Years ago, I don't know if it was before I came on the commission or shortly after, I walked the property with somebody from Lunenburg Youth Soccer and Jack Rodequins. It's a nice piece of property. It's a nice piece of property.
Where is it, near Tri-Town or where?
It's out behind Tri-Town.
Yep, behind it, but that area.
Isn't there officially a park there?
No.
No.
Or
Not
a
on town
conservation
property.
area? Or conservation?
Does conservation
That is
back up to that? It might
Yeah.
back up to it, Anna. It might back up to it.
Yeah. Well, I find it funny if you look at how much property Lunenburg town owns in town, is pretty crazy.
Yeah.
We are our biggest
think-
taxpayer.
But I think it's pretty standard. Like if I look at other towns, they own a considerable amount of property as well. It's not just us. I just think it seems like we own a ton when we're the ones involved in it.
Well, I think some of these properties, it just needs, it's not logical.
Well, I'm not sure who's gonna buy an old capped landfill. I mean, maybe there's a market for it.
Well, I mean, I seen there's a lot here, a lot there. It's like, get that off of the books, just put it back,
On the roll, yeah.
Anyway, that's a conversation. Someone should join the planning board. That's all I can tell you.
There's a space available. Let's
know.
see, if I vote for her and Dave votes for her and Chris.
Let's all
votes
vote
her,
for Dave.
Anna should have a seat.
Let's
We're not
all vote
voting-
for Dave.
Dave is ready for a break.
Dave is stepping down from a board. He should take on another one.
Yeah,
Dave,
no.
if you get another vote,
Anna,
He
I've
can't hold it
got a
anyway.
maximum of 2 years left. I'm done with finance at the end of June. So I am backing away from municipal government, and I announced that a month ago.
He's enjoying retirement, so we can't write him in, but we can write Anna in.
Anna's already a public official. You cannot have two elected positions.
All right, the next meeting I have down is Wednesday, June 15th. Again, via Zoom. I'm assuming everybody wants Zoom. I think it's easiest, but
I will not survive in the meeting room.
does anybody have any public or board comment that needs to be made before we adjourn?
June 15 at 7, right?
June 15 at 7. Yep.
And then July 20th at 7. There's our one after that.
Yeah, I will have the reconfiguration of this board on our next meeting. Please think about what positions you want before the meeting, so that you're not saying no to everything when you get on. Pat did send me a message that during the meeting that he was not going to be able to jump on, so I assume they got the call. But yeah, anyway, that is all. I think we are done. If I could get a motion to adjourn at 9:55.
Motion to adjourn at 9:55.
Anybody want to second that, or are we gonna sit here?
We can't close it.
I was Dave's winding down. I was gonna get Dave as many seconds in as he can.
Rob's got his hand up, by the way.
No, he's clapping.
No, yeah, I was clapping.
Clapping. He's happy that we're done. All right, who's seconding this motion?
For the love of God.
All right, Dave seconded. Let's do a roll call vote. Anna,
I.
Chris,
Aye.
Dave,
I need a minute to think about it.
and it's an aye from myself. We are done. Good night, folks.